The first type is an explicit question on current affairs, where again a current event or any for the matter of any event which has happened in the country, and till the time election is going to be conducted, there is the imposition of model code of conduct, of course, to ensure by the idea of free and fair elections. A Saksham app was in use. It is related to which of the following? One is created by an act of the parliament that makes it a statutory body, which is not the part of government altogether, because this body is taking up corruption charges against central government altogether, right?
What sets AIR2 and AIR3 apart in UPSC CSE 2024? They didn't wait to feel ready. They started smart with the GS Foundation course at Vision IAS Delhi. Structured learning, focused current affairs, real mentorship, test feedback that actually helps you grow. This course isn't just about study hours, it's about direction, clarity, and the strategy toppers trust. Start strong. Start where toppers started.
UPSC preparation is not just about reading books or watching online lectures. It requires personal guidance, real discussions, and structured practice. This is where offline mentoring makes all the difference. Unlike online learning, where doubts often remain unresolved, offline mentoring offers direct interaction, real-time feedback, and an environment of discipline and competition. One-to-one sessions help students get tailored advice, strategy corrections, and focused improvement. Every aspirant has different strengths and weaknesses. Personal mentoring helps address them effectively. Ground discussions sharpen analytical thinking and help students develop a multi-dimensional perspective on issues crucial for prelims, mains, and interview. Elocution sessions help in personality development, clarity of thought, and confidence, essential for UPSC interviews. Test writing is the most crucial part of UPSC preparation. It helps in time management, structuring answers, and improving content quality. Offline mentoring is not just about teaching, it's about grooming future officers with the right guidance, discipline, and confidence. So if you are preparing for UPSC, make sure you have the right mentor by your side.
Hello everyone, welcome to an open session on organizations in news which were there in the last year. Right, so before starting the discussion, my name is Paritosh, and today we will be dealing primarily with respect to national organizations which were there in news for the last 1 year. Now coming to examination, which is of course very near, and again you must have prepared the static part of syllabus. You must have prepared the current affairs part which was there in last 1 year. Now, how will what kind of questions will be asked in examination, right? So, of course, it depends on multiple factors, like how question paper has been set up. But there are some clues which we can gain from current event which has happened in last 1 year, which gives us certain kind of an indicative understanding that these are the important areas which were there in news, and questions can be asked on these particular areas. From current affairs, questions in examination are broadly on two types. The first type is an explicit question on current affairs, where again a current event or any, for the matter of any event which has happened in the country, exact question based on a current event, right? Sometimes there are some events which are happening in the country, right, which makes some important topic or some important underlying theme important from our static part of syllabus. For example, we had the president's rule in Manipur, imposition of president's rule in Manipur. So of course, the idea of president's rule under the emergency chapter is important for this year examination, right? That is how some questions would be of explicit nature of current affairs, some questions would be of implicit nature in terms of current affairs, right? So in the same manner, apart from current affairs, there are few set of topics which are very important for examination, and again they will be around, they will constitute around 5-6 questions in examination. Questions on organizations, questions on maybe reports, questions on indices, questions on national parks, questions on places in news, right? So of course, though they compromise under the respective part of syllabus, but again, these are the few set of topics which again you can prepare explicitly, and again that would give you maybe a chances of solving 4-5 questions, or not if in fact 4-5 questions, but again reading these organizations which we are going to discuss today will help you to at least go through the options which are there in the question paper, and again it would help you to solve or maybe broadly categorize few options in the paper, right? And that is how you are going to solve such questions, right? So this is why reading these organizations is very important. I understand and I'm very sure that you all must have covered these organizations while reading your static part of syllabus or while reading your current affairs. But again, we are going to quickly revise all such organizations which were there in news, right? Primarily in the last 1 year, right? Which are important for examinations of this year, right? So starting with the first organization, which was in news, of course, Election Commission, very important. Why? With the idea of one nation, one election, with the idea of elections happening in the country, with the idea of reforms which are brought up by Election Commission, right? So this is an important theme for the examination, right? So Election Commission, of course, it is, again, we have divided the discussion of national organization based on 3 categories. One is constitutional bodies, the second would be statutory bodies, and third is of course non-statutory bodies, right? So of course, what are constitutional bodies? So any body which is deriving its power from the constitution, which has its genesis, which has its birth from the constitution, are basically called as constitutional bodies. So you will find the name of these bodies, the composition of these bodies, the mandate of these bodies, the functions of these bodies in the rule book, that is the Indian Constitution, right? So let's start with the first constitutional body, that is Election Commission. So Election Commission, of course, it was there in news, and again it was in this year India celebrated its 75 years of getting the constitution, and again 75 years of course of composition of Election Commission, right? So anniversary years, maybe 10 years of something, 5 years or something, 50 years, 10 years, right? 75 years, these are the landmark years where again some topic or some theme which is celebrating some of years of its genesis, right? So that becomes important theme for the examination, right? So in a similar manner, Election Commission is basically a constitutional body which was created on 25th of January 1950, right? And it is a multi-member body. Initially it was a single member body which consisted of Chief Election Commissioner, but with time, with the need and with the demand of the Election Commission requirements, the body size has been increased from Chief Election Commissioner followed by 2 more election commissioners. That is the current composition of Election Commission, right? So of course you must have read, and one more thing, that again whenever you're reading polity syllabus, all the constitutional bodies, of course there are many underlying maybe topics or themes or functions which are quite similar to each other, right? But again, once we read that topic, once we read Election Commission, UPSC, State PSC, we understand and we feel that we have understood everything, we have remembered everything. But again, confusion starts whenever we see question. That is, he can be, the chairman of UPSC can be reappointed after his expiration of tenure, right? Similar manner, the age of retirement is 65 years, 6 years, right? So matter of fact, these kind of questions. So the best way, of course, would be to make a comparable chart, right? Write all the functions, that is, who appoints, what is the process of removal, what are the broad functions, what would be the tenure, whether they can be reappointed after retirement or not. So these kind of areas, and write down regarding all the constitutional bodies. That is how it would help you down to read that particular body in a systematic manner, and you will never get confused with respect to options in the examination, right? So Election Commission, of course, it is a permanent constitutional body which was established on 25th of January 1950, and in fact 25th of January 1950 we celebrate the National Voters Day, right? So of course in 2011 our honorable Prime Minister Manmohan Singh ji has dedicated this day, where again Election Commission was established as a National Voters Day, right? So of course 25th of January is also celebrated as National Voters Day, right? That is also an important prelims fact, which could be maybe there in one of the maybe options in the question paper, right? So again, these are, of course, question cannot be directly put up from the entire body. There would be one option, right, which would help you down to solve or maybe make an intelligent guess or eliminate that option. So information, of course, in those 100 questions which will be there in prelims examinations, there will be a test of your knowledge which you have gathered for last since the time you begin with the preparation process, right? So trust yourself. Everything which you are reading cannot exactly get replicated in the question paper, but again, your information which you are seeing here will help you down to maybe eliminate some options, arrive at some conclusion while solving question papers. That is the broad idea which you should keep in mind while reading such documents, right? So it is, of course, a constitutional body mentioned in bit part 15 of the Indian Constitution, right? And of course, the article numbers are 354 or 24 to 329. That is a basic thing, right? So I'm not going to discuss all the basic features of Election Commission. I'm going to discuss the important things which were there in news, broad idea of Election Commission, and some things which can be there in question paper in examination in the form of an option, right? So of course there are few statutory provisions which are related to Election Commission as well, right? So the recent one is the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners appointment, conditions of service and terms of office Act of 2003, which was of course very recently enacted, which regulates their appointment, service conditions and tenure, right? So of course initially when Election Commission was being made, it had chief election commissioners, and then with time passed, there was a demand of more manpower in the commissions. Of course there were constitution of election commissioners who would be assisting the chief election commissioner, and the number was 2. But it was not their appointment process, what would be their tenure, that was more of not clearly defined. So this act of the parliament, which has been made very recently, is clearly defining what would be the tenure, how that appointment will be done, who will be eligible to become a member of chief election commission or election commissioners, who are the persons who will be defining that. Again, I'll discuss all such things in this new act of the parliament, right? Very important. So again, Election Commission is conducting elections for Lok Sabha, for Rajya Sabha, for state legislative assemblies, then again for president and for vice president. So these are the 5 bodies for which the Election Commission are conducting elections. Very important. There is other state election commission which has been created for conducting elections for municipalities and panchayats, right? For the urban local bodies and rural local bodies. Under, of course, the State Election Commission was constituted after the 73rd and 74th Amendment Act, right? For conducting elections for the local bodies, that is the panchayats and the municipalities. But Election Commission conducts elections for Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, state legislative assemblies, and what we call as the president and vice president, right? Then the composition, of course, it consists of chief election commissioner and 2 other election commissioners. commissioners, right, as of now, right? Initially, the commission had only one CEC, but in 1989, 2 election commissioners were appointed, which served until 1990. And since 1993, the commission is permanently having 2 election commissioners who will be assisting the chief election commissioner in conducting its businesses, right? Who has the power to increase the composition of election commission? Again, a question in prelims examination. Can Parliament do that? Yes or no? So that is the question. Of course, reading between the lines would help you down to come to the answer. President has authority to determine the composition of what we call as the election commission. That is, whether it would be 2 election commissioners is required, or whether we are going to increase the composition of the election commission. It is upon the decision of the president, of course, by the Council of Ministers, right? But it is not under the decision of Parliament. That is one important fact, right? Then functions, it of course disqualifies candidates failing to lodge timely account of election expenses. Basic functions regarding all the election processes, ensuring inner party democracy and grants status of nation and state parties. Of course, who is telling that which political party is going to be a state party or a national party? Of course, that is being determined by election commission. Followed by, it has advisory jurisdiction on matters of post-election disqualifications. Let's say one person has got elected, but again, after the election process, the election commission receives information that some malpractice was being done, or some other matter of fact makes that person disqualified, right? So of course, it has an advisory jurisdiction where again it can advise to the High Court or the Supreme Court for that matter of fact in case of disqualification post-election process, of course. But here the jurisdiction is only of advisory nature. Very important fact. It is not binding, it is not compulsory, it is only advisory jurisdiction. Next, again, the law which I discussed here was the Chief Election Commissioner and Election Commissioners Appointment, Conditions of Service and Terms of Office Act of 2003, right? So what does this act talk about? Who are qualified to become an election commissioner or chief election commissioners? The CEC or EC person must be what? He must be holding or have held post equivalent to Secretary of Government of India. Secretary, of course, who becomes? Right? So of course, you're preparing for the examinations, you must be knowing that you can also become the Secretary of Government of India. So of course, the minimum amount of qualification to become the Chief Election Commissioner or Election Commissioner is that you need to have a post equivalent to Secretary to the Government of India. And you must possess integrity and experience in managing and conducting elections. You have an experience of that. So these are the qualifications which this act has defined in terms of qualification to become an election commissioner or chief election commissioner, right? Then there is a search committee. Of course, there are many people who have these kind of qualification, right? So who can we select among them? 3 people are going to be selected, right? So there would be a search committee. Of course, the committee would have a composition. That search committee will be headed by Ministry of Law and Justice. If it include 2 members, which is again rank of Secretary of the Higher, right? And of course, the committee has been, will be given the task to prepare a panel of 5 candidates for the selection process, right? Then once the name are getting finalized, then what would happen? The select committee, the 5 names which have been formed by this search committee based on the qualifications which people have, then that 5 names will be given to the select committee. Select committee comprised of the Prime Minister, that is the chairperson, followed by the leader of opposition in the House of the People, that is member, that is the leader of opposition. Then Union Cabinet Minister to be nominated by Prime Minister as a member. And what is the function? To recommend the eligible candidates to the President for appointments of Chief Election Commissioner and Election Commission. So this is a new thing which has been brought down by this particular act of the Parliament regarding election of Chief Election Commissioner and Election Commissioner. So very important, please remember what is the composition of search committee, what is the composition of select committee, what is the qualification which is being required to become a Chief Election Commissioner or an Election Commissioner, right? Then again, the broad functions would be, of course, a model code of conduct. What is model code of conduct? Since the date when election dates are announced, And till the time election is going to be conducted, there is the imposition of model code of conduct, of course, to ensure by the idea of free and fair elections. Fair elections as in, of course, there are few political parties who are in power, right? And after the election dates are announced, and if they start to make new, let's say, policies, new schemes to attract the voters, right? So of course, this would amount to an unfair practice, where again, the political parties which are not in power would be at a disadvantaged position. So to go by this idea, to prepare to make the process of election free and fair, right, there is an imposition of what we call as model code of conduct, which basically means no new schemes, no new policies can be announced by the government, of course, after the election dates are announced, right? So that is again to rule that what would be the idea, that is model code of conduct, which is of course the task of Election Commission of India. Then again, registration of political parties, that which political party is going to be a national political party, state political party, in terms of assigning them symbols. So all such tasks are being done by Election Commission, right? Election Commission has also been done, of course, given the task of promoting inner party democracy. What do you understand by inner party democracy? To understand this, we need to understand what do we understand by democracy. Democracy basically means rule by the people, for the people, and of the people. In fact, the people should be the ones who will be, of course, given the powers, or they have a say in the what kind of country they want to live into, right? So of course in India we have the idea of democracies, where again we have an elected representative. We as citizens are not participating directly in the democratic processes. We have an indirect democracy, where again we as citizens choose our representatives, and these representatives make rules and regulations for us in the parliament, right? That is the idea of indirect democracy. Do we have democracy in the political parties? That is the idea. That is, of course, if you see, there are many political parties where again we have leaders, but there are less number of youth faces in the political party, right? So, and again, sometimes political party are not exactly functioning in a democratic manner. For example, political parties, of course, there are few names which are there in political parties, and major decisions are taken by them, right? So that is not a right way. A political party, in fact, should function in a democratic manner, where again the voice, the opinion of each political party member should be heard, and again decision of that political party should be held in a democratic manner. So Election Commission has been given the task to ensure that there is inner party democracy as well, right? Then we have, of course, we have understood that advisory on matters of post-election disqualification, of course, it can assist court, and again the jurisdiction would be of advisory nature. Then quasi-judicial functions, of course, it is, what are quasi-judicial bodies? Who do not have actual powers of judiciary, but again they perform some judicial functions in their limited powers. For example, the Election Commission has a power to disqualify candidates who are failing to lodge timely account of election expenses. And again, on many other matters, it has power of quasi-judicial bodies, right? So it can disqualify members if some of the things are not met according to the election rules. Then media policy that communicates electoral updates through regular benefit briefings. Of course, many times the last general election, you must have seen Election Commission is doing a lot of awareness campaigns, a lot of voter education tasks, right? So that is the idea, of course, the function of Election Commission, right? Then next, I discussed already that again National Voters Day is celebrated on 25th of January. Of course, because on that day Election Commission came into picture, right? And for this year, the theme of National Voters Day was nothing like voting. That was a theme. So of course, why I have come to this point? Because of course, it could be one of the option in the examination. There would be few, they might ask you question that again, consider the following options regarding Election Commission. They give you 4 options, or maybe 4 A, B, C, D options, and then ask you to select which options of the above are correct. And there could be one option that this year's the National Voters Day theme was this, right? So that is out, this kind of information would help you down for solving such kind of questions, where again, one of the option could be selected from an understanding or a knowledge of these kind of information, right? So I vote for sure, nothing voting, that is the theme of this year's Voters Day. right? And then there are different kind of electronic apps, mobile apps, which are launched by Election Commission. Again, important. Why? Because there are four major apps which have been launched by Election Commission. So we will see all four of apps. These are the kind of tech-based questions regarding Election Commission, which could be asked in examination as well, right? So Election Commission of India, of course, know your candidate, where again there is an app, and again in that app, of course, you can get information regarding the candidates who are contesting elections and what kind of information. Of course, details along with photo of the candidates, followed by criminal antecedents of the candidates, if of course if they have a criminal kind of any kind of a history, that would be reflected in that particular app also. And candidates affidavit disclosing educational qualifications, assets and liabilities. So this is how you are of course getting aware or getting information regarding the candidate whom you are going to choose as your representative in the parliament. Of course, this was not something earlier. This is something which is new, where again people are getting, there are tech-based solutions which are being provided, where again people can make more informed choice voting in the election process, because they have information regarding the candidates in terms of their criminal records, in terms of their education qualification, in terms of what kind of assets they have, and everything, right? So this is the Know Your app. Then again, it has again created a portal, what we call as Suvidha portal. Suvidha portal for online permissions. Of course, their political parties, while during the election process, required, of course, need to conform with election rules. And in that confirmation of rules, it need certain kind of authorization from the Election Commission. Authorization regarding helicopter and helipad, or maybe in the election rallies. Then again, air stations, temporary party offices, door-to-door countering, or permission for video van, display banner and flags, vehicle loudspeaker permit, pamphlet, vehicle permit, policy. So of course, all of these. So many times it was seen that there were delays in granting this, of course, permissions. Of course, there has been a creation of Suvidha portal, where again online a political party can ask for such permission, and of course, looking at the considerations and the demand, Election Commission may approve on a timely manner the demands or the request or the authorization which are being requested by the political parties during the election process. So the first app was Know Your Candidate. The second app is, of course, for the political parties, that is Suvidha portal for online permission. Then we have what we call as C-Vigil app. So this C-Vigil app is basically fast-track election-related complaints and readdressal mobile app, which you can use to report incidents of misconduct within minutes of having witnessed them. Of course, you went for voting and you saw that some malpractice is being done in that voting booth. So what option do you have? Either you report that polling officer, but again, with the kind of criminalization of politics which has happened in the country, people fear in terms of reporting such incidences, right? So for that practical purposes, the app has been created, where again, of course, the information of the complainant would not be disclosed, and he or she can complain regarding any malpractices which he or she is witnessing during the election process. And of course, what are those? Communal hate speeches, intimidation, freebies distribution, property defacement, paid news, voter transportation, then again fake news, money distribution, firearms display, liquor and drugs distribution. So these are the few areas where again hashtag Go Report, of course, is the idea, where again you can go and complain through this particular app, right? So of course, going by the idea of conducting free and fair elections in the country. The last app which has been discussed and done is Every Vote Counts, where again what has been done, there has been a creation of Saksham app by Election Commission of India. What exactly is a Saksham app? They might ask you a question. A Saksham app was in news. It is related to which of the following? Right? This is a favorite area where again UPSC asks questions like this. Right? So of course, Saksham app, of course, there are persons with special abilities, right, to take into consideration that they get a voting station where again they can easily access those polling booths. There is a Saksham app which has been created where again people with having special abilities can request, can inform the polling station that again we are the persons with special abilities, we are going to vote. So there would be any kind of necessary request which they make in terms of accessing that polling booth will be addressed through this particular app, right? So of course that is an idea of the Saksham app. So the Saksham app is of course coming under, yes, very important, that Saksham app of course is there for making the voter accessible, of course persons with having special abilities. This app is coming under Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Very important that whenever an app or anything is discussed, please understand, you need to remember what is the underlying ministry, because many times UPSC has been asking questions which ministry is associated with any body which is there in news, right? So for Saksham app, it is of course Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, of course, because why it is dealing with the person with special abilities, right? So voter above 85 years of age and Divyang Jan with 40% benchmark disability can vote from the home. Of course, that is the idea which has been created. Volunteers and wheelchairs at polling stations, transport facility for Divyang Jan and elderly, Saksham app for Divyang Jan to avail facilities at the polling stations. Of course, the Saksham app which has been created for Divyang Jan to access at the, of course, at the polling station. Why? Because, and again, going by the idea that every vote counts and everyone should be given equal opportunity to cast vote during the election process, right? Then these are the 4 apps which we discussed, very important. Election Commission has of course come up with a new concept that at home voting, which is basically that person who do not have maybe who are older or who have disabilities, they are not in a position to come to the polling booth and cast their vote. There is a vote from home option which was of course being put out by Election Commission last year. So of course who are eligible, of course persons with disabilities, with of course the criteria is 40% which is a benchmark disability, and senior citizens above 80 years of age. Apart from then, who all except are there? Of course, people aged and above, persons with disabilities, right? Media persons covering polling day activities. Of course, you see during the voting process, there is media coverage, right? So of course, they would not be in a position to cast their vote. So for that person, there is an option of vote from home. Then again, workers from essential services, for example, services such as metros, railways, and healthcare, because these are essential services which are not getting holidays during the election day. Generally, it is a holiday for, not holiday, of course, holiday to instill or maybe to, so that voters can vote in that particular election day. But there are few essential services which cannot stop. So for them who are delivering essential services, there is an option of what we call as vote from home. Then we are also using service voters, basically personnel of armed forces who are posted away from their hometowns. Central Armed Police Forces are eligible for that thing also, right? So that is the idea. Then for availing vote from home facility, of course, there would be a process. Again, not important, but again, you need to have an idea that who is the authority which authorizes whether a person can vote from home or not, and what is the process. Basic information that again, the District Election Commissioner Office of Parliamentary Constituency, right? And there is a form which you need to download, that is Form 12D, and from the ECI website. And you should file application within 5 days of election at the District Election Commissioner Office. 2 polling officials with a videographer and a security person will visit the voter's home to enable voting in a postal ballot. Voters will be informed about the date and approximate time of visit of election officials by an SMS to mobile number. Of course, that is the idea. Basic information at how exactly it could be done. Of course, one form which is required is filling up a form of 12D, and that should be within 5 days of election at the District Election Commissioner's Office. So District Election Commissioner Office is the one who is authorizing that who, of course, the idea of who can vote from home, right? And there would be polling officers and videographers who will be there and taking your vote at home, right? So that is a broad idea. Then there are an example, of course, few initiatives which have been coming up from the Election Commission. Of course, that could be one of the options in examination. One, of course, is electronic voting machines. It was initially microcontroller-based portable device, which was introduced first in the year 1977. Because what they're asking, sometimes they will give you 4 of the options, right? And they can ask you to arrange them in a chronological manner. That is one nature of question which UPSC has been asking these years, right? So of course you need not to remember the dates, but again you need to remember the exact chronology. So of course what came after what, that is very important. So the EVM machines was first launched in the year 1977, and of course in 1982 it of course was piloted in a pilot basis. It was introduced, and since then it has been in there, right? And then we have systematic voters education and electoral participation sweep, which was of course launched in the year 2009 to promote voter education, awareness and literacy. For that particular purpose, there are few election ambassadors who are being constituted to of course generate awareness regarding voting during the vote before the election process, to encourage voters and make aware regarding their voting rights, what they have, right? That is the idea of sweep. Then e-Civil app we have discussed. Introduction of voter verified paper audit trial, which was introduced in the year 2013 for verifiable paper enhancing transparency. For example, EVM is of course was there, but again it is of course a machine. So there was a possibility that again the EVM machine can also be rigged, right? So for that practical purpose, in 2013 there was a launching of voter verified paper audit trial, which is of course once you vote in the machine, there is a one paper which will tell exactly what is your choice which you have casted in that particular EVM, will be taken or printed out in that particular VVPAT paper, and that would be again collected in a postal ballot box. It would be of course taken into consideration once there is any kind of malpractices which are being conducted, or any kind of, let's say, maybe position which has been there, where again some people will be telling that there has been some malpractice in this election process. There again that VVPAT box would be consulted to double check the votes, right? That is the idea. Then again we have National Electoral Roll Purification and Authentication Program, NERPAP, which was launched in the year 2015 to create error-free and authentic electoral rolls, because the Election Commission has also tasked to prepare the voters list, right? That is the idea. So of course it was launched in the year 2015. Then international cooperation. Of course ECI is also collaborating at international level with different kind of agencies which conduct elections, right? So ECI is a founding member of Association of World Election Bodies and Stockholm and Commonwealth Electoral Network, CEN. So this is the initiatives of ECI which have been arranged or written in a chronological manner. Again, you need to understand that again, with the kind of question which UPSC has been asking, there is a chronology-based questions as well, right? Next, of course, one question which was asked in the year 2017, the Election Commission of India is a 5-member body, correct or incorrect? Please students tell an answer. Election Commission consists of Chief Election Commissioner and 2 other election commissioners. So it is currently how many member body? It is a 3-member body. So which makes this option incorrect, because it is a 3-member body, right? Then Union Ministry of Home Affairs decides the election schedule for the conduct of both general elections and by-elections. No. Who is the one who decides election date? The Election Commission itself, no Minister of Home Affairs, right? So of course it is Election Commission, which makes this option also incorrect. Election Commission resolves the disputes regarding related splits, mergers of recognized political parties. That is, yes, it has what we call as advisory jurisdiction, where again it is going to resolve disputes related to elections, right? That is of course right. So going by the options 1 and 2 and 3, so D, that is 3 only is the right option. So of course questions would be a very simple nature, right? And that is where gives you an idea that again some bodies or council bodies, how you can prepare and how it will help you down to solve questions in an examination, right? That is the process. So the next body which we are going to discuss is Comptroller and Auditor General of India, right? What is the task of CAG, right? So CAG is basically a body that is controller of the financial assets, and again auditor of the finances of the government of India. People pay taxes to the government. Government spends such money. government spends money which is of whom? The people of India, right? So if the government is spending money based on their own wills and not exactly based on the requirement of the citizens of the country, that could be a possibility. So there is a need that again the spending of the government should also be audited, right? So for that purposes, what we have created, we have chosen the parliament, right? Is the parliament which has the legislators which are elected by the people of the country. They are choosing their representatives, right? So parliament is holding the government accountable in terms of the spending which is being done by it. I'll show you through a diagram so that again you have an understanding that if people pay taxes to the government, government does the spending, the tax is monies of the citizens, so the spending should be, the citizens should hold the government accountable in terms of the spending what is it is doing. So citizens have chosen in the parliamentarians or parliament through the election process. So citizens have given their powers to the parliament, and parliament is holding the government accountable in terms of whatever amount you are spending. So again, they have to tell to the government, and government should be held accountable by the parliament with the amount of spending which the government is doing. So the parliament does not have expertise or people who have expertise in finance domain in terms of auditing domains. So of course, there has been a creation of a body, what we call as Comptroller and Auditor General, that is CAG, which is assisting the parliament in holding the government accountable in the spending which government is doing, right? So government helps the parliament to audit the amount which is being spent by the government, of course, for the people of the country. That is the idea of CAG, right? So now, so recently, senior IAS officer K. Sanjay Murthy was appointed as the CAG of India. That is why it was in news, right? So CAG, of course, is the head of Indian Audit and Account Department. Very important. Which department it is heading? Indian Audit and Account Department. Under Article number 148, the CAG is appointed by the President of India. There is one more term which you must have read in polity. Sometimes it is mentioning that it is the person or the body or authority is appointed by the President of India. Simply that is a line. Sometimes you might have been seeing that appointed by President of India by warrant under his hand and seal. That is something you must be seeing. So what is the difference between appointment by the President of India generally and appointed by under his warrant under hand and seal? I'll tell you what is the difference, right? So this, of course, he is appointed President of India under by warrant under his hand and seal. Salary and service condition, of course, it meant Parliament by law and can be charged on Consolidated Fund of India, right? So then again, reappointment, they are not eligible for both central and state government re-employment after the age of retirement, right? So their duties and powers are determined by the parliament by law, right? And Article 151 talks about that CAG shall submit to the president who shall cause them to be laid before each house of parliament. That is the amount or the audit which is CAG is doing. It will submit its report to the president, and then president will table that report in the parliament. That is in both the houses of parliament. Very good. Then again, the powers of CAGs and duties are mentioned in this act, that is CAG of India, Duties, Powers and Conditions of Service Act of 1971, right? So the tenure is of course 6 years and 65 years. For most of the constitutional bodies, the tenure is 6 years and 65 years, whichever is earlier. So that is how you can see them. And the removal process is same as the removal of Supreme Court judge, right? So of course he can be removed by the president on same grounds and same manner as a judge of a Supreme Court, right? So that is how it is. Now again, appointment by President of India by his warrant and hand and seal, it means there are few bodies in the constitution who are appointed in this manner, which includes the governor, the CAG, the judges of Supreme Court and the other key officials like Attorney General of India and Chief Election Commissioner. This means that it signifies a formal official appointment by the President which requiring a written document, that is warrant bearing his signature and the official document. That is the idea of warrant hand, because some important constitutional positions are appointed by his warrant of hand and seal, right? Next, some question what has been asked in the examination. Let's see, and let's see whether you are in a position to solve this question or not. 2020 they have asked a question. The President of India can remove the Comptroller and Auditor General of India on recommendation of the Parliament, right? So is it correct or incorrect? You tell me. Then the CAG is not eligible for further office either under Government of India or of any state after he has ceased office. We have seen that yes, he is not eligible. And President of India can remove, yes, of course, President has a power to remove the CAG and from the on recommendation of the Parliament, because that is how the Supreme Court judge is also getting removed, right? The motion for removal of judge should be first passed by the Parliament. So both options are correct. So C is the right option over here, right? One more question, I am assuming, yes. In 2012, there was a question that with reference to CAG of India, which of the following statements is correct? He is appointed by President of India, absolutely correct. We have seen this. He can be removed only by a process similar to removal of a Supreme Court judge, absolutely correct. The CAG is not eligible for further office after the retirement, yes, that is also correct, because he is not eligible either for central government or state government. So you are seeing questions are of very simple nature in examination. So these are the kind of questions from polity which is bonus questions to you, where again complete factual information and you are going to do these questions correct, right? So this is of course a kind of a confidence you should be getting by yourself, that if you have completed these chapters of a polity, these bodies of a polities, so of course there would be no chance that you can make them incorrect in the examination, right? So but it requires very careful reading. Then the next body is of course the National Commission for Backward Classes. So initially this body was a statutory body, but again later it was converted to a constitutional body by an amendment to the Indian Constitution, right? And the amendment is of course 102nd amendment. So many a times, again, what kind of questions they have been asking that in the examination, they will tell you, they will give you 4 amendments, 102, 104, 101, 99th, and they give you few of the changes which were made in the Constitution. They can ask you match the following. So that is where your understanding comes, ki few important things which were added to the Constitution very recently, and of course all such major amendments, we need to understand that question of such type are asked in examination, right? So 102nd, of course, related to incorporation of National Commission for Backward Class in the Indian Constitution itself. Earlier it was a constitutional bodies. So of course, then what exactly does National Commission for Backward Class mean? Of course, the Constitution has defined who exactly constitutes the backward classes. Of course, people who are educationally, who are socially, who are economically backward, economically and socially backward, they are classified as other backward classes, right? So the National Commission for Backward Class, remember one important fact, the NCBC is not the one who is classifying that which community will become an OBC and which community will become non-OBC. That is not the task of NCBC. The task of course, it is done by one, there is a central list of other backward classes which is prepared, of course, by the central government on the advice of President of India, and in a similar manner, all the other backward classes which are there in the state list also prepared, which is of course done by the governor of the state, by the help of in the state government. So these are the bodies. There is a list of central list and state list which contains the list of all such other backward classes, which is made by the central and state government respectively. The National Commission for Backward Class has no role in classifying which community will become other backward class or not, right? So of course, once a committee or a group becomes other backward class, then the task of National Commission for Backward Class begins. What kind of functions they are doing? Article, of course, this was constituted in the year 2018, very important year, and again year for what? chronological based questions, you understand. Article 338B. B means, again, if you understand, you will ask, sir, A means amendment. What is the meaning of B? I'll tell you how. I have an answer to that as well. Let's see. So Article 338B, it mandates union and every state government to consult National Commission of Backward Class in all major policy matters affecting the rights of OBC. Any important policy which is going to affect the other backward classes of the country are going to be consulted by both central and state government to the NCBC. For example, there is some provision, some amendment going to be made in terms of changing in the idea of creamy layer concept. Some they are telling that creamy layer percentages or reservation is going to increase or decrease. Any such matter of fact should be consulted with the National Commission for Backward Classes. So any policy, any law which is going to be affecting the backward classes or the other backward classes should be consulted before the National Commission for Backward Class, right? Then what is the power? It has a power, of course, as powers of a civil court. There are two types of courts: civil court, criminal court. So all civil, it has the powers as civil court as well. For example, what do we understand this? Of course, it is going to give judgments based on any matter, and again it has power as that of a civil courts, right? Then what are the duties? Of course, to investigate and monitor and safeguards the other backward classes. Then again inquire into specific complaints regarding the deprivation of rights of backward classes, advice on socio-economic development of other backward classes, and other also evaluate their progress. Such other functions in relation to advancement of OBCs as President may rule by specify. Annually presenting reports to, very important, the Commission has to submit its annual report to whom? To whom? The President of India, very important, on safeguard implementation and make recommendations, right? Why I am discussing this is because that could be options in examination also. Consider the following statements regarding National Commission for Backward Class. They give you 4 options. That could be, the functions could be 1 or 2 options in the examination, right? That is why please be very careful. Majorly, you know, understand, if you understand this, it is majorly doing the task of what we call as evaluating or suggesting policies regarding the advancement of other backward class in society. That is a broad idea, right? Then what are the duties? Investigate and monitor safeguard backward classes, we have seen. Inquire into specific complaints regarding deprivation rights of backward classes. Any of the right of backward classes which is being discriminated, the Commission can hear such complaints, and of course it has a power as civil court, so of course it can give punishment or judgment based on that. Then again advise on socio-economic development of other backward classes and also evaluate the process. Such other functions related to advancement of OBCs as President may by rule specify, and annually present report to the President, safeguard implementation and make recommendations. These are the broad functions of National Commission for Backward Class, right? Next, important information, very important. This was introduced by which amendment? 102nd Amendment Act of 2018, which gave it a constitutional status. Originally, it was a statutory body, and in 2018, it was given a constitutional status. Now, this body, the name of National Commission of Backward Class, is there in our rule book, that is the Constitution, only after 2018, right? Then, it has inserted Article 338B, and earlier it was a statutory body under National Commission for Backward Classes Act of 1993. And Article 338, now here starts the big story. 338 of the Constitution provides National Commission for Scheduled Caste, right? Then it was bifurcated in 2003 with a special commission, what we call as National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. And of course, if something new was created, so first amendment in the article is called as A, and in 338 there was other subsequent new amendment, that is why we have 338 capital B. So capital words in the Constitution signifies that this provision has been added through an amendment to the Constitution, right? So 338 talks about what? National Commission for Scheduled Caste. 338A talks about what? National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. 338B talks about what? National Commission for Backward Classes, right? You're clear on this? Next, few questions what has been asked in examination with reference to National Commission for Backward Classes. Consider the following statements. Let's see what are those. The Constitution of India provides for an establishment of National Commission for Backward Classes. Yes, it is going to be a constitutional body, and under Article 338B, we have clear that this talks about composition and constitution National Commission for Backward Class. Absolutely correct. The National Commission for Backward Class has the power to examine complaints and welfare measures regarding socially and educationally backward classes. We have seen that one of the function of NCBC is this as well, right? Next, the President of India appoints the chairperson and members of NCBC. Yes, we have seen the appointment is done by the President itself. So all three options are correct here. So 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Again, a previous year question of the UPSC itself, right? So questions are of very similar basic nature. 2 pages of reading of this body, and you are going to solve one question correctly in the examination, right? So the time devoted and the result of getting 2 marks, less time, more marks. That is the idea, right? Next question. In 2018, this was a question which was asked in examination before 102nd Amendment Act of the Constitution was being made. That is, it was a question asked in 2018 when NCBC was not a constitutional body. I have just put up this question to make you understand that how questions are asked in examination. The National Commission for Backward Class is a constitutional body. Again, now the option is correct, but again, that it was incorrect. NCBC was set up in response to Supreme Court judgment in Indira Sahani case. Absolutely correct. In the year 1993, there was a constitution, or the law was being made, what is called as National Commission for Backward Class Acts 1993. It was, of course, after the Indira Sahani case, which was there in the year 1992, which talks about, which is related to other backward classes. So absolutely correct. The NCBC has the power to include or exclude caste from central list of OBCs. Does it have power? No. It is under central list. If any other backward class is going to enter or exit the list of backward classes, it is being done by the central government at state, by the president at the central level, and by the state government at the state level. Commission has no role in entering or exiting maybe few of the communities in OBC list or not. That is not a task, right? So this is also incorrect. So only of course here 2 is correct only. Next, National Commission for Scheduled Caste. In a similar manner, yes, the original constitution also talked about National Commission for Scheduled Caste, right? So recently, Delhi High Court said that National Commission for Scheduled Caste is not empowered to investigate on or issue any direction in nature of a civil or a criminal court. So recently, of course, we have seen that National Commission for Backward Class is what has powers related to what? Civil court. But in this judgment, it is being discussed that scheduled caste, the National Commission for Scheduled Caste, has no powers which that of a criminal court or civil court. This could be one of the option in examination as well, right? That is why very important. Of course, it is going a constitutional body. We have seen in Article 338. It consists of a chairperson, vice chairperson, and 3 other members who are appointed by the, of course, it is the constitutional body at a central level. So, of course, the President of India. Tenure is of course of 3 years, and they are not eligible for appointment for more than 2 terms. If a person has completed 1 term, he is only eligible for 2 terms. Of course, for 6-year max, a person can become a member of the National Commission for Scheduled Caste, right? Functions, of course, it investigates matters and monitors all matters relating to constitutional and other legal safeguards of scheduled caste. That is the task of the OBC was the same thing, this is the same thing, and ST is also the same thing, right? And inquire into specific complaints with respect to deprivation of rights and safeguards for scheduled caste. Any matter, they can directly approach and complain with respect to this. Or the National Commission for Scheduled Caste can take up suo motu cases as well in terms of any violation of any rights of person belonging to scheduled caste, right? Then important judgments, very important. I am telling you this is why, because recently it was in news. Because Supreme Court in one of the landmark cases last year has told that there is high time that we need to sub-classify caste within scheduled caste as well. I tell you what exactly it is. In the famous case, it was being discussed that there are few castes within scheduled caste. some castes have uplifted their position by getting the benefits of reservation. But there are some castes within that scheduled caste who are still very underprivileged, who are still very deprived. So when it comes to the matter of giving reservation benefits, priority should be given to the castes which are still which are still very deprived, which are still have not reaped the benefit of the reservation, and again priority should be given to them rather than such caste of scheduled castes which have uplifted their position in the society after getting the benefits of reservation, right? That is the idea. So for that, Supreme Court had told you prepare a list, you classify such caste. The central government has been given the task, the state government has been given the task to classify such castes within scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, and based on that, and of course there is a criteria which is being set up, on what empirical data basis there should be a data which should back whether a state or a government is telling, the central government telling that this community has got less privilege and this community is still underprivileged. There has to be a data which has to be backed. That is the idea which has been given in that particular judgment of Supreme Court. So that is why this topic is also important, where again sub-classification of castes was in news, and there has been an important Supreme Court judgment based on that as well. So of course, many a times you can see important Supreme Court judgments can also become question in examination. They will give important Supreme Court judgments and what was the judgment which was being given over there. So of course, we're going by the important judgments in this particular case. State of Kerala versus N.M. Thomas, 1975. First Supreme Court judgment to use the term creamy layer as while classifying reservations to other backward classes, there was the concept of creamy layer. If the income threshold is above creamy layer, so that percent of course are ineligible to get the benefits of reservation under other backward classes. People below the threshold level of income will be classified as non-creamy layer, and only non-creamy layer, of course creamy non-creamy layer, that can take the benefit of reservation, right? So creamy layer and non-creamy layer, which is being discussed. Then again in Indira Sahani case, a 9-bench Supreme Court emphasized that government should exclude creamy layer with the OBC category from benefits of reservation. That is, creamy layer persons should be not getting the benefit of reservation. That was discussed in the Indira Sahani case of 1992. That is very important landmark case. After this only, there was a constitution of what we call as National Commission for Backward Class. Then E. Chennaiya versus State of Andhra Pradesh, 2004, Supreme Court held that sub-classification of scheduled caste amounting to tinkering with presidential list and was therefore violative of Article 341. That is been discussed in this article as well, the recent judgment of Supreme Court, where again it has been discussed that if president is empowered or president is authorized to in fact prepare the list of all such communities which belong to other backward classes. If before that there was state of maybe there were few communities, Valmiki community, Wazhabi community, which was there in Punjab, few communities in Andhra Pradesh, the state governments itself excluded them from the list and told, no, these people have reaped the benefit reservation and we should not be giving them priority. So this was a matter of question, and again in the judgment of this, it is being discussed that sub-classification of a scheduled caste amounted to tinkering the presidential list, and it is against the constitution. So this idea of the Andhra Pradesh government or Punjab government or the Haryana government, it was quashed by Supreme Court. Then in the Jarnail Singh versus Lakshmi Narayan Gupta case of 2018, Supreme Court opined that application of creamy layer to concept of 341 and 342 does not tinker with presidential lists. So of course, the idea of creamy layer is not going to affect the this list. That is the idea. So again, my idea of telling you the judgments was that whenever you're reading any such topics in polity, so after every such topic, please understand all the important amendments which were there in that particular chapter, all important Supreme Court judgments which were there in that particular chapter. These are the important areas which you should expect that question could be asked from these topics in examination, right? Next is of course a question in examination. Consider the following statements. The Constitution of India provides for National Commission for Scheduled Caste. Yes, the Constitution has given us. The Constitution of India has provided for National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. Of course, yes. The Constitution of India has provided for National Commission Backward Class. Initially it was not there, but now this is absolutely correct that all three are there in here. But again, the question was asked in the year 2016. In 2018 only, this commission for backward classes was given a constitutional status. But as of now, all three are there. So of course, D is the right option, right? So again, questions are a very simple nature. They are just asking you whether these bodies are constitutional bodies or not. That is the only question they're asking, right? So questions will be of very simple nature, right? Then next, in 2021, there was a question that with reference to National Commission for Scheduled Caste, consider the following statements. It is a constitutional body. Of course, yes, Article 338 has a mention of this particular body. It consists of chairperson, vice chairperson, and 3 other members. Absolutely correct. We have seen the composition that it consists of chairperson, vice chairperson, and 3 other members which are appointed by the President of India. Its mandate includes monitoring the safeguards provided to scheduled castes under Constitution and the other laws. We have seen that is the primary function, to safeguard the right of scheduled caste and other laws related to scheduled caste. That is the prime function of this body. So all 3 are correct here. So D is the right option, right? That's how questions will be of very simple nature, right? Next question, next of course the topic. This is very important to understand the chronology of this particular bodies, which are again constitutional bodies. In the year 1950, the original constitution had provision for special officer for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in 1950, right? Again, the provision was for having a special officer for only scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. In 1978, a non-statutory status multi-member commission was set up for SCs and STs through a resolution, right? In 1987, it renamed the non-statutory commission as National Commissions for Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes through other resolutions, right? Then again, after that, in 1990, the 65th Amendment Act of 1990, a constitutional member National Commission, a multi-member National Commission for Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes, a constitutional body was being set up. Then again, in 1993, National Commission for Backward Class was constituted as a statutory body, what we have seen. In 2003, the 89th Amendment Act of bifurcated, again, important amendment, 89th Amendment Act bifurcated National Commission for Scheduled Caste under National Commission for Scheduled Caste and National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. Scheduled Tribes is there under Article 338B of A of the Indian Constitution. Then in 2018, of course, the 102nd Amendment Act conferred constitutional status to National Commission for Backward Classes, right? So this is the whole chronology of events with respect to National Commission for Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribes, and other backward classes, right? Next, I'm hoping this all of this is going to help you down in terms of solving question in the examination. Just a second. Next. Again, the examination for which you are writing, Union Public Service Commission, right? So recently, UPSC chairman resigned after 5 years before expiration of his term. That is the idea. That is why this topic was in this body is in news, right? So Article 315 states that there shall be Public Service Commission for Union and Public Service Commission for each state. 315 talks about there has to be Public Service Commission for Union and Public Service Commission for state. For Union, we have Union Public Service Commission. For states, we have respective state Public Service Commissions. We are clear on this? It is mandated in Article 315 of the Indian Constitution, right? Then exactly, it starts with 316 that about UPSC, that he should be appointed by the President of India. Of course, the term is 6 years, 65 years, which is generally for all the constitutional bodies at central level. Eligibility, who is eligible to become the chairman of UPSC? He should have hold office for 10 years, either under Government of India or under government of a state, right? That is where, of course, maybe the IAS officers can, of course, are broadly eligible to become the members of UPSC, right? Then they are ineligible for further employment, either under Government of India or under governors of the government of the state. So once they are retired, they are not eligible for further appointment, right? So generally in the later ages or the last leg of their career, they are constituted under this particular category of chairman, and that is why you see 6 years, 65 years, because generally after the retirement is of 60 years, so they are given, that is a bonus kind of a because they have such experience in this whole field of examination, so they are, that's why the age limit is 65 years for most of the constitutional bodies, because we want to get an expertise of people who have a first-hand experience of doing or governing the particular matters, right? Of course, they can be removed by the President of India, and for removal, there is criteria that he should be an adjudicated insolvent, then he should be engaging during his term of office in any paid employment outside the duties of his office, and he is unfit to continue in office by reason of infirmity or the body of mind or body. That is a criteria for removal by the President of India, right? So again, few question, basic question, that with reference to Union Public Service Commission, consider the following statement: the UPSC is a constitutional body. Yes, Article 315 talks about this. Then the chairman and members of UPSC hold office for a term of 6 years until they attain the age of 65 years, whichever is earlier, absolutely correct. Then the conditions of service of UPSC members can be varied to their disadvantage after appointment. If you read the basic conditions of service of all the constitutional bodies, their service, the conditions of service cannot be made into disadvantage after their appointment, right? That is the basic criteria for all such. So they are telling that they can be varied, they cannot be varied, they cannot be changed after they have been appointed, right? So this is incorrect, and that is true for all such constitutional bodies which you are there in the constitution altogether, right? So 1 and 2 are correct, and 3 is of course incorrect. So B is right option. Like, look, the questions are very simple. I am telling me over all the questions are simple. Just to re-emphasize and give you an understanding that really these questions are easy, and less time devotion, more result. That is other type of bodies which you are going to read over here is going to help you now for solving such questions. Next, again in 2013 there was a question: which of the following are functions of Union Public Service Commission under Article 320 of the Constitution of India? Right? Again, they have given Article 320. So you need to understand that, of course, you should be knowing that the UPSC details are mentioned under which broad articles of the Indian Constitution. We have seen that 315 talks about that there has to be commission at a central level, that for, of course, that is UPSC, and one at state level. 316 to 320 talks about the broad ideas of Union Public Service Commission, their functions. So they are, of course, the functions which you must have read in your standard books. Conduct examinations for appointment to service of union, of course, because of course they are not appointing for states, right? For union only, absolutely correct. Direct recruitment by selection through interviews. Yes, there are few of the advertisements which are published by UPSC where again direct appointment without examination are being done, where again there is a qualification which has been put up in the advertisement, and again people are allowed to apply, and based on the scrutiny of the applications they can be interviewed, and of course they can get selected by UPSC for the central level government jobs. Advising on the principles to be followed by making appointment to civil service, absolutely correct. Advising on disciplinary matters affecting a person's service under Government of India, that is also correct. So all of them are the basic functions of UPSC which you must have read, and that is how questions are asked in examination. Next, in 12 they have been asking a question: who among the following has the power to remove chairman of Union Public Service Commission of India? Who has the power? Parliament, President, Supreme Court, or Prime Minister? So we have seen who can remove the chairman, the President. On what conditions we have discussed also, right? So President is the right answer. Next, the State Public Service Commissions. Of course, the Vice President has addressed the 25th National Conference of Chairpersons of State Public Service Commission. That is why this body was in news. Right, so of course it is going to conduct examinations for appointments for services at the state. For union we have UPSC, for state we have respective state public service commissions. Right. Next, of course it is going to be a constitutional body because it has a mention in the Constitution of India. Article 315 to 322 in part 14 of the Constitution contains provision on public service commissions for union and states. 315 to 323. So we have to categorize. 315 talks about that we need to be commission for union and state. That is the idea. 316 starts with UPSC, and we are going to see from where state public service commission starts. Appointment not by the president, by the governor of the state. That there comes the difference, and this is what I was talking about. Terms of office 6 years, not 65 years, 62 years, whichever is earlier, right? And that's where the difference between union and state starts, and that's where the confusion among students starts. So you need to be very clear on this particular aspect of the information, right? Again, removal appointment though by the governor, but they are removed by the president. Again, a trap question for examination, right? So though they're appointed by the governor, but they are removed by the president of India, and the manner is of course same as the manner as the chairperson of UPSC can be removed. We have seen what are the criterias, right? Adjudicated insolvent, engaged in paid employment outside his office, or unfit misbehavior after an inquiry by Supreme Court. That is a broad idea, right? So some question which has been asked. With reference to State Public Service Commission in India, consider the following statements. The Constitution of India provides for establishment of Public Service Commission for each state. Yes, for each state as well as union. So this option is of course absolutely correct. The chairman and members of State Public Service Commissions are appointed by the President of India. Correct or incorrect? Tell me, you have seen this right now. It is the governor. So this makes the statement incorrect. A State Public Service Commission submits its annual report to the governor of the state. Absolutely correct. They are submitting the report, but again, and UPSC submits its report to the president itself, right? So who can remove the chairperson of State Public Service Commission? The president, not the governor, right? So 1 and 3 are correct. That is how it is. Next question. Again, one question more. Consider the following statements. The chairman of State Public Service Commission is appointed by the governor of the state. We have seen this, correct? The chairman of State Public Service Commissions can be removed only by the president. That is correct or incorrect? Absolutely correct. Appointment by the governor, removal by the president. Both statements are correct. And again, just to showcase you, these are the areas where again UPSC asks questions, right? So again, both are correct here. Next is of course State Finance Commissions. Of course, Finance Commission is a very important constitutional body which is constituted under Article 280 of the Constitution. Read about that as well. But again, this was in news because the first of its kind Finance Commissions conclave organized by Ministry of Panchayati Raj, with significant emphasis was placed on strengthening State Finance Commission. That is why this was in news. So again, because State Finance Commission is basically tackling the finances of local bodies, right? So of course there was a conclave of Ministry of Panchayati Raj, and it was because the major problem with urban local bodies or rural local bodies in India is that they do not have enough power of what we call as taxation. They have no money. So of course, the body which is going to give them money or decide what is the devolution of taxes between the states and the local bodies is the State Finance Commission. So of course, there were ideas to discuss that how it can be made, how we can strengthen the whole body of State Finance Commission, right? So Article 243I, again 243 relates to provisions related to Panchayati Raj institutions in India, right? So again, once the 73rd and 74th amendment were made, there was a constitution of two specific bodies specifically related to elections. There was state election commissions, and for managing the finance, that is distribution of proceeds of tax between the states and the local bodies, there was a constitution of State Finance Commission. Again, why I am telling this is because many times, specifically from 73rd and 74th Amendment Act of the Constitution in 1992, article numbers are asked in examination. They give you article number and ask you which provision of Panchayat this article pertains to, right? That is why please remember all, basically there is a mnemonics to remember that as well. Whatever suits you, please remember, but again remember that which article number talks about which provision of the Panchayati Raj and of course the municipalities. One very important thing, there are few provisions which are mentioned in 73rd and 74th Amendment Act. Some provisions are compulsory, some are voluntary. That is, it is up to the state, that is what kind of provisions you want to adopt. But there are some compulsory provisions of the act, there are some voluntary provisions. So read that as well. Then more other important fact would be, of course, PESA Act, that is provisions of extension to Scheduled Areas Act of Panchayats. So that is something very important, right? So tenure, of course, is of 5 years, right? And the mandate, of course, is to review the finance position of panchayats and municipalities under Article 243Y, I and Y, and make suggestions to governor, not the president, because, of course, it is at a state level. So, of course, they will be assisting the governor about the distribution of taxes between the state and the local bodies, that is the panchayats and the municipalities, and determination of taxes, duties, etc., which may be assigned or appropriated to local bodies. In India, the major problem with the local government is that they are not given enough powers of taxation, right? So, in fact, only I think property tax is the tax which are being given to the panchayats, and they can collect and tax on that. So, of course, that makes the whole body less financial autonomy which is being given, and who can decide. Of course, it is going to be decided by the respective state government. The Finance Commission can only recommend. So, of course, understand, in fact, for Finance Commission and State Finance Commission, both of them, their suggestions are only recommendatory in nature. It is not compulsory that the government or the state government are going to adopt or whatever suggestions are being given by the Finance Commission. But generally they do that because they are only constituting this body, right? Grants in aid to local bodies of the state, grants in aid to the by central government of states are done by Finance Commission. So grant in aids by state to local bodies are done by the State Finance Commission, right? Then next, so of course, devolution powers 243G talks about a state endow panchayats with such powers and authority to necessary to enable them functions as institutions of self-government. So of course, the state government has been given the power under Article 73rd and 74th Amendment Act that you make necessary measures so that they become self-governing in nature. That has been discussed in Article 243G. 243H talks about empowers state legislature to enact laws authorizing panchayats to impose and collect taxes, duties, tolls and fees. That what kind amount, it is up to the state that, of course, I'll give you an understanding that again, before GST, what was the nature of collection of taxes between center and the states? There were few taxes which were collected and levied by the states. There were few taxes which were collected and levied by the center. With the coming up of GST, there was one major thing that states gave away their powers of taxation. And again, this was an idea of what we call as an example of cooperative federalism, where again state are cooperating, states are giving their powers of taxation to the center, because we have one nation, one tax. In a similar manner, it has been discussed that the state government, with whatever taxation power it has, it is up to state government that what kind of taxation powers they are going to give to the local bodies, and that would vary from state to state. So broadly, in fact, in most of the states, in fact the panchayats, that is a major function, that they are less of funds, the less functions. That is the idea, of course, of what it is. But again, Article 243H, it is empowering the state government to authorize the panchayats for imposition, collection of taxes, duties, tolls and fees, right? We have discussed altogether, that is, it provides for the constitution of State Finance Commission after every 5 years to transfer resources from state to panchayats in form of devolution, grants and aid, assignment of tax and non-tax handles. 243ZD provides for constitution of District Planning Committee, again important body, to consolidate plans prepared by panchayats and municipalities to be integrated into a draft development plan for district as a whole, right? Three major bodies which were coming out of 73rd and 74th Amendment Act was State Finance Commission, State Election Commission and District Planning Committee, right? Next, one question. With reference to Finance Commission of a state in India, Which of the following statements is or are correct? Again, UPSC question. It is established under the provisions of Article 280 of the Constitution of India. Incorrect. 243I. 280 talks about Constitution of Finance Commission, not State Finance Commission, because the question is asking Finance Commission of State. It is constituted by the President of India every 5 years. Who is constituting it? The President, right, or the Governor? Let's look at the other options. It is constituted by the Governor of the state to review the financial position of the panchayats. It makes recommendations to Governor regarding the distribution of taxes between the center and the states. That is the right option, right? So again, Finance Commission, it is of course the article the Constitution itself is creating. This is not done by President or by the Governor, right? That's why D is the right option over here. Next, interstate councils. So again, with the idea of center-state relations in the country, there have been constitution of different kind of councils to adjudicate the matters between the center and the states, and of course there are different kind of matters starting from executive, legislative and financial matters. So interstate councils are being constituted, of course, to for adjudicating or coordinate the center-state relations, so that they can coordinate and cooperate with each other. That is why these bodies are created. So they are, of course, it means they are not created, they are only, it is the Constitution tells that there can be what we call as interstate councils. So that does not mean they are constituted every time. They are only constituted when there is a need for them, right? The Constitution has...
Looking for expert mentoring to crack UPSC? Lakshya Mentoring Program is your answer, a personalized, expert-led path from preparation to performance. If you are targeting prelims 2025, here is what is in store with batch starting from 14th March. One-on-one mentoring with UPSC experts. Tailor-made strategy to match your needs. Regular MCQ-based assessments, CSAT support. Access to live quiz, Sandhan personalized tests, Lakshya prelims practice tests. Planning for the long game prelims, mains and interview 2026. Lakshya Integrated Mentoring Program 2026 gives you a head start with batch starting from 15th March. Year-round mentoring support, structured preparation calendar. Prelims to interview coverage including GS, CSAT, ethics, essay, and personality test guidance. Regular evaluation, customized feedback, and adaptive planning. Regular group and one-on-one session with mentors. Integrated current affairs preparation with digital current affairs platform. Are you still juggling newspapers, random notes, and endless PDFs trying to make sense of current affairs? Let's make your UPSC prep smarter. Introducing Digital Current Affairs Premium by Vision IAS, your all-in-one platform to read, revise, and write better every single day. Have a doubt from today's news or something in your syllabus? Just ask and get instant AI-powered answers that are concise, relevant, and completely aligned with the UPSC exam pattern. No more guesswork, no more confusion. Want to boost your mains writing skills? Practice daily with structured questions and get expert feedback to sharpen your content, clarity, and analysis, because writing well is winning half the battle. Need better revision? Use quick notes and highlights to save key points, mark important lines, and organize your current affairs in a way that actually works for you. And here's the best part, some of the most powerful tools are absolutely free. Daily news summaries from The Hindu, Indian Express and more, curated, filtered, and exam ready. Downloadable PDFs so your notes stay organized and accessible. Daily quizzes and MCQs to reinforce what you've learned and track your progress. A smart student dashboard to monitor your performance and stay on top of your goals. Whether you're just starting or deep into your prep, Digital Current Affairs Premium adapts to your strategy and makes every minute count. So why prepare the hard way when you can prepare the smart way? Visit www.visionis.in/current affairs and start transforming your current affairs prep today. Because with Vision IAS, you don't just stay updated, you stay ahead.
Has given us a provision that again it is the whenever it is being required, that is the requirement of that to coordinate and cooperate between center-state relations, there can be creation of interstate councils, which has its genesis in Article 263 of the Indian Constitution, which talks about upon presidential order. And again, it was created in the establishment was under Article 263 in the Constitution through a presidential order of in the year 1990 on recommendations of, again very important, the Sarkaria Commission has recommended the creation of interstate councils, right? So composition, it of course consists of the chairman, who is the Prime Minister is the chairman, followed by members. Members consist of chief ministers of all the states, chief ministers of all the union territories having legislative assembly, for example, Delhi and Puducherry. All the union territories who do not have assembly, their administrators of UTs, of course, who will be the member of this interstate council, and 6 ministers of cabinet rank in the Union Council of Ministers to be nominated by the Prime Minister. That is the composition of what we call as interstate council. Again, why I am telling you this is, these kind of factual kind of information are there in examination also, right? So have a hold on this, and again the best way to remember, of course, is to solve questions and revise it multiple times, right? Next, again for interstate cooperation, the Constitution has given few other bodies which can be created, right? So for successful functioning of Indian federal system, the harmonious relation between the center and the states is of course the key. 262 talks about adjudication of interstate water disputes, of course the Kaveri water issue, so therefore that particular purpose is the creation of river interstate water dispute, right? That is the idea. 262 talks about it, and that is one of the unique features of Indian Constitution, where again no other constitution of the country had any kind of a body which can be created for interstate water disputes. Then 263 talks about coordination between center and state through interstate councils. That is what we are discussing. 261 talks about mutual recognition of public acts, records and judicial proceedings. 3.1 through 307, freedom of interstate trade, commerce and intercourse. That is a broad idea. There are zonal council as well. So zonal councils which are established by the Act of Parliament, that is States Reorganization Act of 1956, and they provide zonal council for each 5 zones. India is divided into 5 zones, that is northern, central, eastern, western and southern zone. That we have zonal councils, right? Next, some facts. 263 mandates the creation of interstate councils. It is a constitutional body, yes, but not a permanent one. It is established whenever it is needed, and it can be established by the President of India. Very important fact. It is established, was here in the year 1990 on recommendation of Sarkaria Commission. Chairperson, of course, is the Prime Minister, and the purpose is to discuss and recommend interstate matters, policy, coordination and dispute resolution, but not, of course, the decisions are not binding, right? The decisions are only recommendatory. Of course, the final authority is, of course, lies with the judiciary of the country, but these are only recommendatory, not binding judgments. A question. Consider the following statements with respect to interstate councils. The interstate council was established under the provisions of Article 263 of the Indian Constitution. We have seen, yes, absolutely correct. The Prime Minister of the India is the chairman of the Interstate Council, absolutely correct. The Interstate Council decides on disputes arising out of interstate water sharing. For water sharing, we have seen what? For water sharing, we have Article 262, that there will be creation of special interstate water disputes body, right? That will listen to that. So of course, that is not the task of Interstate Council. So that is why the third statement is incorrect, right? So 1 and 2 are correct. Next, now we have discussed all the constitutional bodies which were there in the news in last 1 or 1.5 years. Please read other constitutional bodies as well and make it in a comparable chart manner so that you have understanding of all such things. Now we will start with the non-constitutional bodies, right? What exactly are constitutional bodies? We have seen all such bodies who have their genesis in the rule book, that is the Constitution itself, are called as constitutional bodies. Something which are not there in the constitution, they are created by an act of the parliament. So an act is basically called as a statute as well. So those bodies which are created by an act of the parliament are called as statutory bodies. So non-constitutional bodies are again categorized into two bases. One is statutory bodies which are created by an act of the parliament, right, and they have no mention in the constitution itself. They are created by an act of parliament. Such type of bodies are called as statutory bodies, or example of non-constitutional body, right? The other mention would of course be non-statutory bodies which are not created through an act of the parliament, that is legislative organ of the state. It is created by an executive organ of the state, that is the executive. Such bodies are basically example of non-statutory bodies or non-constitutional bodies which are not created by the act of the parliament but again by an executive order. Example, Niti Aayog. So specifically formed by the government decision without passing an act of the parliament, right? So that is how it is. So every body, either this or this, will be called as a non-constitutional body. But again, the specific term would be to discuss this. For example, everything is an apple, but apple, both are apples. But again, if I want to specify which specific apple it is, this is I will tell this is a Fuji apple, this is a Shimla apple, right? So all of these bodies are non-constitutional bodies because they have no mention in the constitution, but they have some special features. One is created by an act of the parliament, that makes it a statutory body. Other is a non-statutory body. Why? Because it is not created through an act of parliament, it is created through an executive order of the government, right? We are clear on this? Let's start. One important thing, because we are going to discuss bodies who are dealing with the matters of corruption in the country. What exactly is corruption? So corruption is basically, it is commonly defined as an abuse of public office for personal gain. Very simple but very meaningful understanding of corruption. That is, of course, use or abuse of public office for personal gain. I'm sure all of you are clear on this, right? So it expanded the definition, includes abuse of power and influence vested in a person as a result of holding a political office or holding an influential role in a corporation, or having personal wealth or access to significant resources, or having elevated social standing, right? So gains from corruption include both financial, in case examples of bribery, and non-financial in terms of any kind of patronage, any kind of nepotism activity, any kind of enabling activity, any kinds of increase in position of power. These again, corruption does not only include bribery. Of course, there would be financial corruption, there would be non-financial corruption as well. So that is a broad idea of corruption. All of you must have read that in ethics and governance altogether, but just to give you a revision of that particular aspect. The first body is, of course, Lokpal and Lokayuktas. So Lokpal and Lokayuktas were constituted as a Lokpal and Lokayukta Act. So of course, it is a statutory body because it is created through an act of the parliament. Lokpal is going to see the matters of corruption at the central level. Lokayuktas is going to see matters of corruption at the state level. That is why these two bodies are constituted under Lokpal's and Lokayukta Act, right? So recently Lokpal has established an inquiry wing under section 11 of Lokpal and Lokayukta Act to probe graft cases against public servants. So we're going to see what exactly what is its genesis, where does it start, and its anti-corruption. Of course, it is the ombudsman. What is the RBI? In terms of monetary policy, the governor of RBI is the banking ombudsman. So of course, in a similar manner, in case of anti-corruptions, any matter of corruption, who is the supreme authority, supreme body? That is this. Anti-corruption ombudsman at central level was established by Lokpal and Lokayukta's Act of 2013. Very recent, right? To investigate and prosecute corruption cases involving whom? Specifically the public servants. That makes it differentiate from what we call as Central Vigilance Commission. Central Vigilance Commission is also looking into matters of corruption, but against the central government altogether. This one is only looking at corruption cases against public servants, right? So looking at the options, both, of course, it was recommended both in the first and second ARC reforms, that is Administrative Reforms Commission ARC reports, right? So it recommended the establishment of Lokpal institution. Lokayukta is at state level, as I discussed, and Lokpal at a state level. Its structure is not uniform across all states, because again, as it is going to be different for different kind of states, of course, there won't be uniformity in terms of Lokayuktas in all the state, right? And Lokayukta's appointment by the, of course, generally by the governor in consultation with the Chief Justice of the State High Court and leader of opposition in state. Again, very important. It's looking very simple, but now to remember such facts is a huge task, right? But again, very important that again, who can appoint? Governor can appoint in consultation with whom? As it is for at Lokayukta is for state level. So governor will of course be there. Then Chief Justice of the respective state high court, again as it is for state, and leader of opposition of the state legislative assembly. That is how you can make an intelligent way of reading it. As it is for state, so all state authorities will be there. One authority, one from judiciary, that is Chief Justice of the respective state high court. One member, of course, from the opposition. Why opposition? Why? Because it is a matter of what? Corruption against public servants. Right, so that is why there's a creation and incorporation of what we call as leader of opposition. Why? Because the one member from the government altogether, he is appointed by the governor only, right? Then composition of Lokpal, it consists of chairman, who is, of course, if the chairman can be appointed to whom? The CGI of India is, again, if we have seen here, for state it is Chief Justice of the respective state high court. For Lokpal, it has to be what? A person who can become a chairman of Lokpal, that is a person who is or has been a CGI or is or has been a judge of a state high court. These persons are eligible to become the member of Lokpal. So of course they are taking the chairperson should also of course be a member of the judicial organ of the government. Either he could be a Chief Justice of the state or the Supreme Court, or he could be any of the judge of the respective Supreme Court, right? And of course it composition is of chairman plus 8 members, right? And from that 8 members, 50%, that is 4 members, should be of judicial members, which are appointed by the president, right? Clear? So Justice Pinaki Chandra Ghosh in 2019 was the first Lokpal, and Justice A.M. Kwalankar is the current Lokpal. Chairperson and members shall be appointed after obtaining recommendation of selection committee. We have seen that it is being told na ki this chairperson is going to be this one. Who will tell that they are telling 50% of members should be judicial members appointed by the president? So of course there has to be a pool. So who is going to tell? There is going to be a selection committee. Selection committee comprises, which we'll see what are those, right? So chairperson and members shall be appointed after obtaining recommendations from the selection committee. They are not only upon the will of the president or by the order of the executive. It is of course there is a selection committee. Why? Because these are matters of corruption. If the person or if the body is adjudicating the matters of corruption against public servants, and again executive is given the power to select the committee, that is the president, will it not be a conflict of interest, right? That is where it is a selection committee which has a diversity of members, but still I'll tell you in the last that how it is still not complete justified, and still there is a conflict of interest in case of selection committee members. I'll tell you why. Right, their term of office is of course 5 years upon the date from which they enter the office, and they till the age of 70 years they can remain in the office, of course 5 and 70. On ceasing and holding office, the chairperson and every member shall be ineligible for reappointment as chairpersons or member of Lokpal. Why? Because once they are after 70 years or 5 years, whichever is earlier, they are not eligible for reappointment, right? However, because why? If they will be eligible for reappointment, so during their tenure, right, they are not going to impartially adjudicate cases of corruption against public servants which are brought to them, Why? Because with the hope that the current select committee, if I am favoring or giving judgments on to them, they will be reappointing me as a Lokpal chairperson or a member. That is the idea, right? So, however, a member shall be eligible to be appointed as a chairperson of Lokpal if his total tenure has not exceeded 5 years, right? That is how it is. Criteria, basic. Chairperson, of course, we have seen, he can be a sitting or retired Chief Justice of India or a judge of Supreme Court or an eminent person. Judicial members consist of, there are 58 members, out of them 50% will be judicial members who will be appointed by the President, who can be either a sitting or retired judge of the Supreme Court or Chief Justice of the respective High Courts, not Supreme Court, right? Other eminent persons, the 4 other members will be eminent person which will have at least 25 years of special knowledge and expertise in the matters related to anti-corruption policy, public administration, vigilance, finance, including insurance and banking law and management. That is the criteria for other 4 members out of the 8 members in the Lokpal, right? Then persons who are ineligible, who cannot become, that is also defined, less than 45 years of age, person convicted of any offence involving moral turpitude, person holding any office of trust or profit or be affiliated with any political party. Again, the political party members are not eligible to become a member of course, yes, here. Member of parliament or state and legislature or any panchayat or municipalities, person removed or dismissed from the service of union or state. So these people are ineligible to become the members of Lokpal, right? Next, select committee. So of course, the person who are selecting the members of whom? The Lokpal, right? So again, as I discussed, there would be chairperson and there would be 8 members. Out of that 8 members, 50% of the members will be appointed by the President, who will be judicial officers, and 4 other eminent jurists. For qualification, we have seen the last slide. This tells ki to appoint those chairperson and 8 members, there would be a select committee who will select the members who can be appointed to to become the members of or chairman or the members of the Lokpal. Who will be selecting them? The Prime Minister, who is the chairperson, the Speaker of the House, that is a member, Leader of Opposition of the House, Chief Justice of India or a Judge of Supreme Court nominated by him, again a member, and 1 eminent jurist to be nominated by the President as a member. So this will comprise the selection committee of Lokpal. Now let's see where is the conflict of interest lies. I'll show you one more thing. Yes. The Lokpal can adjudicate corruption cases against public servants. Public servants include the Prime Minister or the Minister in the Union Government or Member of Parliament and officials of Union Government of Group A, B, C and D. Prime Minister is selecting, or the other members are selecting, Leader of Opposition is selecting, the Speaker is selecting a member of a Lokpal who is going to adjudicate a case of corruption against them. That is the conflict of interest, right? That I was talking about, right? So of course, what is the authority of Lokpal? Which political or which let's say we call that the public servants, it can hold accountable in terms of corruption cases. The Prime Minister, the Ministers of Union Government, Members of Parliament and officials of Union Government under A, B, C and D. As it is for union, because Lokpal for union government, for state governments we have Lokayuktas. So Lokpal will see only these matters. Chairpersons, members, officers and directors of any board, corporation, society, trust or autonomous body established by the Act of Parliament or wholly or partly funded by union or state government, that is being eligible. Any society or trust or body that receives foreign contribution above 10 lakhs. So all of these bodies comes under the purview of Lokpal in the matters of corruption, right? So for that matter, the Lokpal is divided into 2 wings. One is the inquiry wing, who will inquire into the matters of corruption, and the other will be prosecution wing, who will be awarding punishment once the inquiry committee has found the matters of corruption proved against that particular public servant. So let's see. So of course, the inquiry wing will conduct a preliminary inquiry into any offence alleged to have been committed by a public servant punishable under Prevention of Corruption Act of 1988. it is going to submit once the inquiry is done, it is going to submit its inquiry within the time period of 60 days. Again, remember, these small information can become a question in examination. They will tell you 90 days, they'll give you 30 days, but the time is 60 days, right? Then the inquiry committee or wing is headed by Director of Inquiry under Lokpal chairperson. Director will be assisted by 3 superintendents of police as well as matter of corruption. So of course, SPs and SP General, SP Economic and Banking, and SP Cyber, right? Each SP will further assisted by inquiry officers and the staff, and they have all powers of civil court under Code of Civil Procedure of 1908, right? Then once the inquiry committee, it will give it to the prosecution wing, which is headed by Director of Prosecution, for prosecution of public servants in relation to any complaint by the Lokpal which has been given by the inquiry committee. Director of Prosecution shall file a case based on investigation of report before special court and prosecute public servants in relation to any offence punishable under Prevention of Corruption Act of 1988. Right, powers of local superintendents and direction over any central investigation agency, including CBI or cases referred to them by Lokpal. Right, they can handle these cases as well. Issue of appropriate directions to public servant entrusted with the preparation and custody of any document, record to protect, prevent such document, etc. Powers under Civil Procedure Code for conducting preliminary inquiry and investigation for eradication of corruption, and serve as a final appeal authority for redressal of public grievances by any public authority in cases where decision contains corruption finding under Prevention of Corruption Act of 1998. So these are the broad powers of Lokpal, right? We have seen this also. Now let's see the options of question which has been asked in examination. Consider the following statements regarding Lokpal and Lokayuktas Act of 2013. It provides for establishment of Lokpal for the union and at the state level. Absolutely correct. We have seen for union level we have the Lokpal, for state level we have the Lokayuktas. The Lokpal will be consisting of chairperson and maximum number of 8 members. We have seen it consists of chairperson and 8 members. Out of that 8 members, 4 members will be from judicial background, which are appointed by the president, and 4 members will be eminent jurist. Absolutely correct. The selection committee of Lokpal consists of Prime Minister, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, the Leader of Opposition of the Lok Sabha, the Chief Justice of India, and an eminent jurist nominated by the President. Absolutely correct. That is where I was telling ki informations regarding appointment, functions, selection committee, eligibility, retirement, very important, because they can become one of the options, not the entire question. They can become one of the option in examination also, right? Okay, next question. Or the next topic, Central Vigilance Commission. Similarly, again the matters of corruption. What is the difference? They are investigating matters of corruption broadly against any matter of corruption against the entire central government, right? That is the idea. So recently CVC in annual report 23 highlighted that the ministry, department, sector-wise corruption complaints received and disposed against public officials. The report was published. That is why this body is in news. CVC, of course, it is a statutory body, so there has to be some act of parliament which is giving its the birth to this particular body. This was the CVC Act, that is Central Vigilance Commission Act of 2003. It was established in the year 1964 through earlier it was a non-statutory body, but it was given a statutory status in the year 2003 by Central Vigilance Commission Act of 2003, right? So in 1964 it was established through a resolution of Government of India on recommendation, again committee, again the committee names is also important. They give you committee name in the match the following, and they tell you which committee has recommended which particular body. So this was recommended by K. Santhanan Committee on Prevention of Corruption. So this committee has recommended the establishment of Central Vigilance Commission, that is K. Santhanan Committee, right? Then in the year 1998, it was conferred a statutory status through an ordinance, but again, as it was ordinance, it was not a law of parliament, right? Member, it consists of 3 members and 1 Central Vigilance Commissioner and 2 Vigilance Commissioners, just like Election Commission, right? Appointment, again, for union level, of course, by the president on recommendation of high-powered committee. Who will be appointing? Again, who are the person who will be appointing them? Again, that is the conflict of interest again coming. Prime Minister, Union Minister of Home Affairs, and Leader of Opposition, right? So of course, I think the idea, of course, should be to the select committee should have a neutral member, which is not the part of government altogether, because this body is taking up corruption charges against the central government altogether, right? So selection committee should be made independent out of it, right? These are the suggestions which you can put forward in the mains answer writing, right? Roles and functions: it supervises the vigilance administration across central ministers, department and organizations. It conducts preliminary inquiries into complaints referred by Lokpal officials. Very obvious. Oversee functioning of Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, that's CBI, in investigating corruption-related offences. Whenever CBI is investigating any corruption-related investigations, it will be, of course, adjudicated by Central Vigilance Commission, right? Some question? The Central Vigilance Commission was set up on the recommendations of the Santharan Committee. See, I was telling a question was asked in examination like this only. Absolutely correct. CVC is a statutory body. Absolutely correct. It was constituted again against the Central Vigilance Commission Act of 2003. Right. The CVC is under the administrative control of Department of Personnel and Trading. Yes. Because as it is adjudicating matters of corruption against central government, it is directly under the administrative control of Department of Personnel and Trading. Another piece of information, right? That is how, while solving previous year questions, you're also getting few pieces of information of study as well, which can become one of the point for your reference, right? So all three are correct over here. Next, again one question, again for an indirect relevance to this particular topic. Which of the following bodies does not figure in the Lokpal and Lokayuktas Act of 2003? Central Vigilance Commission, Union Public Service Commission, Election Commission, Central Bureau of Investigations. Of course, Lokpal and Lokayuktas are adjudicating corruption cases against public servants, right? For that matter, of course, it is taking help of the CBI, the Central Vigilance Commission, and as well as Election Commission. But again, UPSC is nowhere related to Lokpals and Lokayuktas. That is how interconnecting different bodies is also very important, right? Just that is the question which is asked in examination. Next topic, National Human Rights Commission. So recently, National Human Rights Commission was in news. Why? Because the UN body, which is what we call as United Nations Global Alliance for National Human Rights Institution, has deferred the accreditation of NHRC of India, right, for the second time in a row. National Human Rights Commission, for what was the purpose? To protect human rights. So every country has their own National Human Rights Commission. So of course they should adhere by certain standards. If I tell you, maybe I feel that maybe sleeping at roads is against human rights, but some country they're telling, no, this is not amount of violation of human rights. Beating someone in jail in India is of course a violation of human rights, but some countries telling beating someone in jail without any crime itself is not a violation of human rights. Of course, there has to be some standards. The standard has been put up by a Paris Agreement, which was done by United Nations, which classifies or which tells what are the basic standards that any country's National Human Rights Commission should maintain. Right. So India, in fact, has not maybe conferred few of the what we call as agreements or few of the requirements under this Paris Agreement, and that is the reason this has not been the UN National Human Rights Commission has not given accreditation for the second time to the National Human Rights Commission of India. We'll see what are the provisions which have not been given or adhered by the National Human Rights Commission of India. So let's see broadly its genesis. Of course, a statutory body which has been created under the National Protection of Human Rights Act of 1993, as amended in, again, it has been amended 2 times, 6 and 19. Appointment: the chairperson and members of the commission are appointed by the President of India. Again, it's a central level, on recommendation of a committee headed by Prime Minister and Speaker of Lok Sabha and Minister in charge of the Ministry of Home Affairs. Very important. That is the area which creates confusion. Right, so everywhere there is Prime Minister, there is Leader of Opposition, but here there is the Speaker of Lok Sabha, not Leader of Opposition, right? And Minister in charge of Ministry of Home Affairs. Then, yes, Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. So of course, Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Leader of Opposition of Lok Sabha and both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, as well as Minister in charge of Home Affairs, right? Then what is the tenure? They are appointed for 3 years or till the age of 70 years, just like Central Vigilance Commission, whichever is earlier, and they are eligible for reappointment. For that matter of fact, there was no eligibility in case of CVC, but here they are, the chairperson and members are both are eligible for reappointment. And for that matter of fact, for them it was for 2 years maximum, but there is no condition for here. Removal, they both chairperson and members can be removed from office from president on order on the ground of MIF behavior and incapacity after consultation with the respective Supreme Courts. How they are removed, basic information. So what is the composition? It consists of a chairman. Chairman should be what? Chairman should be a Chief Justice of India or a judge of Supreme Court. That is a eligibility criteria to become a chairman of NHRC. There are other members. How many members? There are 5 full-time members, which consist of a retired or serving judge of the Supreme Court, retired or serving Chief Justice of the High Court, 3 other members to be appointed from the persons having knowledge of practical experience in matters of human rights, one of whom shall be a woman. Again, that's the criteria. That again, just to give by the idea that human right violation against women, there has to be someone who should be women to understand what kind of violation a woman can feel whenever few of the rights which are being given to are violated. For example, if you understand, in Afghanistan, women does not have a right over their own body, right? That is what the idea. Again, in India, the NHRC is containing a women member as well, right? Then 5 full-time members and 7 deemed members, which includes chairpersons of National Commission for Minorities, that is backward classes, persons with disabilities, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and protection of child rights and women. So these are the 7 deemed members who are becoming the member of NHRC. Next, what is the function? Of course, to inquire into human right violation on its own or by petition. Either it can take up cases of human right violation by itself or by a petition which is being filed by a victim. Number 1. Intervene in proceeding involving human right violation pending before court with an approval of such court. If any matter which is amounting to a human right violation is pending in court, right, that will be taken up by NHRC, of course, by the approval of the respective court first, right. Then visit any jail or institution under the control of state government to study living conditions of inmates. That is, there are many web series these days in the OTT platforms which is showcasing that how what are the condition of prisoners in these jails. They are not getting basic human amenities to live. The quality of living standard is very less, right? So of course, NHRC is taking that into consideration. It can visit. They are visiting jails to see the condition of inmates, and if they are the living condition are amounting to a violation of basic human rights. Then review law and procedure for protection of human rights. Any law which is being made by the parliament, if it is violating any of the human rights, they are taking that into consideration as well. Review factors including acts of terrorism that inhibit human rights. Any act of terrorism which is violating, or any factors or including acts of terrorism that inhibit human rights, that is also taking consideration by the NHRC, right? Next, this was the thing I was talking about. Paris Principles, again a question in prelims could be asked. What are Paris Principles related to human rights? These are the principles. Paris Principles adopted by UN General Assembly in 1993 has set out international agreed minimum standards that all NHRICs must meet to be considered credible. If I am telling NHRC of India, NHRC of India is not credible because it has not got accreditation by the United Nations. Right? Why? These are the basic criteria they need to be met. What is? It should mandate and these are mandate and competence. Should have enough mandate, and the people who are there should be competent. Number 1, autonomy from the government. Of course, if you see here, appointment, and again it is there by the government itself. Independence guaranteed by a statute or the constitution. pluralism, adequate resources, and adequate powers of investigation. That is the criteria which has been given. Why India has not got its recognition? Why? Yes, this Global Alliance for National Human Rights Institutions, that has been the idea, which is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, right? So it was established in the year 1993 as an International Coordinating Committee, ICC, of National Institutions for Promotion and Protection of Human Rights, which is known as Ganhari, right? And members are 120 members. India is also a member, that is right. So the subcommittee which is aggregating the NHRC status, credibility to the countries. So this is a body that is responsible for reviewing and aggregating NHRIs in compliance with Paris principles. SCA comprises of a status institution from each of the four regional groupings, Africa, America, Asian, Pacific group. And Office of High Commissioner of Human Rights is a permanent observer of SCA and serves as secretariat to this. Basic information, not of that important, because this was important that on what basis India has not been given the status of NHR's accreditation by this UN body. Some question? Consider the following statements regarding National Human Rights Commission. NHRC is a statutory body, absolutely correct. We have seen it is empowered to inquire into violations of human rights only by public servants. No, again, an extreme statement. Many times, if you see the word only, most of the times extreme statements are incorrect in the examination, right? So just to make you understand, of course, NHRC can take up complaints not only against public servants but generally for any human right violation in the country. That makes the statement incorrect. It cannot intervene in any matter pending before the court. It has, in fact, power after taking the approval of the court. If there is any matter pending in the court which is contravening with the idea of human right violation, it can take up that case as well, but again with the approval of prior approval of the court. That makes the statement again incorrect. 1 is the only option, so A is the right option over here. Right? Questions are this nature are asked in examination. Again, one question. Which of the following are the functions of National Human Rights Commission? It inquires into complaint of violation of human rights or negligence in prevention of such violation by public servant. Absolutely correct. Visit any jail or detention place to study living conditions of inmates. We have seen the functions. Review constitutional safeguards for protection of human rights. We have seen any law, any constitutional provision that is also going to be taken by NHRC. Undertake and promote research in the field of human rights. That is also there. All of these are the functions of NHRC. So that makes D as the right option. National Investigation Agency. So recently this was in news. Again, it is taking up the matters of any security matters in the country or any cases which amounts to terrorism or national security are being investigated by agency, what we call as National Investigation Agency. Why it was in news? Because in the recent Supreme Court judgment in Ankush Vipan Kapoor versus NIA, the Supreme Court has ruled that National Investigation Agency can investigate non-scheduled offences linked to scheduled offences under NIA. Of course, I'll tell you what exactly. So there are few offences which are defined that these are the offences which, if it is being done, it can be investigated by National Investigation Agency. In this particular case of Ankush Vipan Kapoor, he was being charged of maybe trafficking drugs from the country of Pakistan, and then again he was being charged investigated by NIA. So he filed a complaint. He said, "I have not committed any crime which is coming under the investigation of NIA." That what are the offences which NIA can investigate? So NIA is not authorized to investigate me. Supreme Court has told that if you are trafficking drugs, the money which you are gaining from that trafficking can be used for terrorism funding. That is where there is the concept which has been told by the court that any offences which can lead to or which can lead to an offence mentioned under the scheduled offences of the NIA Act can be investigated by the National Investigation Agency. Right? So what exactly it is? It was formed in the year 2008 after, of course, the Mumbai attacks, which all of you know, right? So after the Mumbai attack of 2008, there was a counter-terrorism and other national security threats in India. So that is why it was created by the 2000 National Investigation Agency Act. This is an act which is giving the birth to National Investigation Agency. Objective, of course, to primarily objective investigate and prosecute offences related to terrorism, organized crime, and other offences that threaten national security. So all such matters, that is terrorism, organized crime, and national security matters, will be investigated by National Investigation Agency. Jurisdiction, entire country, does not know state borders, nothing, because it is a matter of national security. So jurisdiction over entire country and is empowered to investigate cases beyond state boundaries as well, right? Then authority, it is a central agency and its investigations are authorized by Union Ministry of Home Affairs, that is an MHA, right? It has authority to arrest, investigate and prosecute accused individuals. It has power to arrest, to investigate and to prosecute as well against the individual of what kind of crimes and what kind of offences. Offences under UAPA, that is provisions, provides a legal framework for addressing unlawful activities and terrorism. Explosive Substances Act regulates the use and handling of explosive materials. Atomic Energy Act addresses threats related to nuclear terrorism. Narcotic Drugs Act controls and prevents drug-related offences to terrorism. IPC covers a broad range of terrorist activities under the Indian law. So all such matters, if it is there, will be investigated by the National Investigation Agency. Right? Very important. They can ask that what kind of offences are there which NIA can investigate. So these are the few laws or the act of the Parliament which are the offences which NIA can investigate. Right? Next. Of course, these are the offences. There is a broader list, that is Explosive Substances Act, Atomic Energy Act, Unlawful Act, Anti-Hijacking Act, Suppression of Unlawful Act against Civil Aviation, Unlawful Acts against Safety of Maritime Navigation, Weapons of Mass Destruction Act, SARC Convention, Suppression of Terrorism Act. अगर IPC में क्या क्या है, Chapter 6 of Indian Penal Code, Section 370, 370A, right? So these are the areas on which, on these matters, NIA can have an investigation power, right? Next, initiatives. Again, the broader initiative, again a question which can be asked in examination. National Terror Data Fusion and Analysis Center, which has been established for enabling big data analysis and facilitating automation and digitization so that NIA can investigate such cases using big data analysis. That is the use, again, in the eyes of cyber crime, right? NIA Amendment Act of 2019 has enlarged its mandate. It has been made the nodal agency at central level for investigation of terror funding and fake Indian currency, that is the idea of counterfeit currency. That matters it can investigate also, which has been given to it by the 2019 amendment. Very important. The amendment, what change it has brought in the NIA Act, right? Then there has been memorandum of understanding between NIA and NFSU, that is National Forensic Science University, for capacity building of NIA officers in the field of forensic expertise. So these are the few areas where, again, initiatives which has been taken by to enhance the capacity and mandate of National Investigation Agency. Next, again a question prelims. With reference to National Investigation Agency, NIA, consider the following statements. NIA was created by an Act of Parliament. Yes, in 2008 by NIA Act it was being formed. Absolutely correct. It is a constitutional body. If it is created by an Act of Parliament, it becomes a statutory body. It is not a constitutional body. So of course, incorrect. It can investigate terror-related offences across states without the permission of states concerned. Yes, it has complete autonomy. So that makes the option correct. Next, employers provide provident fund organization. Very simple. That EPFO, of course, you must have if you are employed. If you have an employed, if you are employed, there's a PF, provident fund contribution, where again some funds are half of the funds is given by the employer, half of the funds is contributed by the government, and again that corpus of fund is being created, and that can be availed once you are getting retired, that is after the age of 60 years. But there are other provisions, that is if you are unemployed, you can take out the funds. That is the idea basically of social security measures after, in cases you are unemployed, right? So Employee Provident Fund Organization. So Employee Provident Organization it was created in 1951 under EPFO, and it was replaced by Employers Provident Funds Act of 1952, which is making it a statutory body. The act is now referred as Employees Provident Act and Miscellaneous Provisions Act of 1952. Again, ministry very important. EPFO comes under which ministry? Comes under the Ministry of Labor and Employment. Right? For see such kind of bodies, you need to understand which is the underlying ministry under which it comes. Right? So Ministry of Labor and Employment. What is the mission? To reach and to extend reach and quality of public managed old age income security programs. We have seen administering which kind of schemes? EPF scheme, employee pension scheme, and employee deposit link insurance schemes. These are broader schemes which are being administered by EPFO. Right? And what is the benefit? Just to make you a quick understanding, that equal contribution is made by the employee and the employer. Let's say if whatever the amount is, let's say the employer is contributing 5,000 to your PF fund based on the, of course, the CTC what you have. 5,000 will be contributed by the government also. That is the idea of this provident fund. Of course, interest rate is offered on the accumulated fund. If, of course, as a corpus of fund which is being accumulated till the time you're getting retired. So, of course, the amount which is getting accumulated, you will get interest on that as well. Then amount can be withdrawn if you are unemployed. Let's say after 10 years of your service, you are unemployed, you're not getting any job. So, you can take that amount from the EPFO fund as well, right? Ideal requirement fund, of course, whenever you require, you can take it out, but there is a cut-off time for that as well. And these amount, the PFO funds, the contributions are not under taxation, right? They cannot be taxed. Next, insolvency and bankruptcy code. So of course, this was being created when again any person, any company, any person or any liability company, if becomes bankrupt or it becomes insolvent, then of course there are money which creditors have put up in that particular company. So what would be the process of maybe aggregating or maybe getting money of the creditors who have invested that money in the company which has become bankrupt or insolvent? So there is a process, there is a code which has been brought out by the Government of India. It is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of 2016 that has been created, which is considering matters with respect to any company, any partnership, or any person who is becoming bankrupt or insolvent, right? So that is how the idea is. And for that matter of fact, is the creation in that particular code that there would be a body, what we call as Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board, which will be investigating and which will be overviewing the functions of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of 2016. Again, basically you must have read that in economics part of your banking chapter, right? So of course it is coming under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Again, very important. I am telling repeatedly, ministries are very important. That could become one of the option in examination, right? Next, functions. It has regulatory oversight over service providers in the insolvency ecosystem. That is, it can regulate what is the kind of thing. It has responsibility to provide regulatory framework for insolvency and resolution process for the corporates and individuals. Governing body basically consists of chairman members, 3 members of officials of central government, not below the rank of Secretary of the State, 1 member to be nominated by RBI, and 5 other members to be nominated by central government, from whom 3 shall be whole-time members. Basic idea of composition. Next, the Security and Exchange Board of India in the year 1992 to regulate the security markets. You must have watched that web series Harshad Mehta Scam, right? The kind of uncertainty or the market which was completely unregulated. So there was a need to regulate that security market. For that practical purposes, there was a creation of Security and Exchange Board of India, which is a statutory body, right? So this body, of course, the genesis constituted on as initially it was a non-statutory body which was created in the year 1988 through the resolution of Government of India. Initially it was a non-statutory body, but after it was established in the year 1992 under the SEBI Act as a statutory body. Of course, to protect the interest of investors. You are buying shares. If the shares are coming, of course, they need to be regulated. So that is the idea, that again, to protect the interest of investors in securities and to promote development and to regulate the securities market. You must have, if you have watched that web series, you must be knowing what exactly the scam all about, right? Functions to protect interest of investors, basic functions. You must be reading it by yourself, basic idea, right? Next, insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India. Of course, by word itself, to regulate insurance market in the India, that is the idea of this particular thing, right? So headquarters is in Hyderabad, and of course it is being created by recommendation of which committee? Very important, Again, out of all things, there are few keywords which are very important in that piece of document. These are the areas which you cannot miss. If you're missing it, you're missing one question in examinations. Please be very careful out of it, right? So it was formed on the basis of recommendations of Malhotra Committee as an autonomous body in the year 1999. It is incorporated as a statutory body in 2002, again, which is the Act, IRDAI Act of 1999. Objective for speedy and orderly growth of insurance industry, speedy settlement of genuine claims, etc. Many times if you see, the problem with the insurance companies these days are, during the time of taking insurance, they give you a lot of promises that again we are going to give this kind of just cashless, you go get admitted and again we'll give you insurance. But once you start to claim insurance, then the process of hassle starts, right? So it was a need to regulate such market, that is why this body has been created, right? Next, coming under which ministry? Under Ministry of Finance. It is a 10-member body, which is chairman, 5 members and 5 part-time members. Ministry of Finance, very important. Roles, again please read very carefully, that is some self-understood. That is, it is issuing, renew, modify, withdrawal, suspend, cancel certificates of registration for insurance companies if they are found guilty of the compliance norms which has been created by this authority. Protect the interest of policy holders, adjudicate disputes between insurers and intermediaries or insurance intermediaries, promote and regulate professional organizations connected with insurance, reinsurance business. That is a broad idea, right? Next, NABARD. Again, in economics, you must have read that. National Agricultural Bank, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, headquarter, Mumbai, right? So what is the idea? It is an apex development bank. Bank for what? The name itself is agriculture, to promote sustainable and equitable agriculture and rural development. So of course, you must be seeing the idea of, which is new. It is not only going to agriculture, sustainable and equitable agriculture and rural development. These are the 2 broad aims of NABARD, right? So rural development and sustainable and equitable agriculture. That is why you must have seen that many of the rural projects, the funding is being given by NABARD, because it has the aim of rural development as well, right? Then genesis, of course, an act of the parliament in 1982. It was to the NABARD Act of 1981 on recommendation of Siraman Committee. Siravaman Committee, very important name of the committee. Mandate, providing regulatory credit and other facilities for promotion of and development of agriculture, small scale industries, cottage and village industries, handicrafts and allied economic activities in rural areas. So not only agriculture, small scale industries as well, cottage and village industries as well, handicrafts and other allied economic activities in which areas? Rural areas. Ownership, of course, is completely owned by Government of India, right? Next, National Finance Reporting Authority. Again, financial reporting, any kind of financial matters. So again, headquartered New Delhi. Constitution under the 2018 under section 132 clause 1 of Companies Act of 2013 क्या काम करती है? Continuously improve quality of all corporate financial reporting in India. As in the जो CAG करती है ना गवर्नमेंट के लिए, वही काम करती है corporate bodies के लिए, right? The same function which is CAG is doing, it is being done by National Financial Reporting Authority for corporates, right? Functions: recommend accounting and auditing policies, standards, monitor and enforce compliance, oversee service quality, etc. That is the idea of this particular body, right? Next, MPC, very important. You must have read in the chapter of banking, RBI, monetary policy. Monetary policy, it is being done by a monetary policy committee, which was being set up by the section 445 ZB of the 2016 RBI Act of 1934. The central government is empowered to constitute what we call as a monetary policy committee to maintain price stability while keeping in the mind objective of growth. What is the task of why monetary policy has been made? To control inflation in the economy and at the same time to go by the idea of economic growth. Initially, it was being done by RBI, but after this amendment, there has been a committee which is being set up, where again, there are few members of the organs, different organs of the state who are a member of Monetary Policy Committee, right? What are those? Member consists of 6 members. One would be governor, RBI ex officio chairman, governor of RBI of course, then RBI ex officio chairman, that is the governor, 5 other members, 2 from RBI and 3 appointed by the government. So of course, 6-member body, 3 member will be from the government, 3 member will be from RBI, right? Clear? Then again, voting, each member has 1 vote, and a governor of course has a casting vote. Meeting at least 4 times a year, and quorum, that is minimum number of people required to hold that meeting, is 4. Out of 5, 4 applause has to be present every time. If there are 3 members present, there will be no meeting constituted, right? Next, NGT, National Green Tribunal. What are tribunals? Tribunals are basically quasi, of course, the judicial bodies for specific purpose, for giving judgment or any specific matters. So the tribunals are being created. So National Green Tribunals, any matters related to environment will be heard by this particular tribunal. Are they having, of course, the idea was to decrease the pendency of cases because courts were overburdened, and specific cases with specific matters were given to this tribunal. So any matters related to judgment requirement in terms of environment, it was being given to National Green Tribunal. But the major drawback is that there is a possibility that again any judgment can be again appealed in a court of law. That is a broad maybe idea where again the idea by which it was being created, right? But again the matters against the decision of NGT can again be appealed in a court of law, right? So again, National Green Tribunal, it was started as stated as the Ganga river facing floodplain encroachment. It was headquarters in New Delhi. Principle of sitting in New Delhi, again there are 4 other centers: Bhopal, Pune, Kolkata and Chennai. It was established as a statutory body under National Green Tribunal Act of 2010, headed by chairperson with 10 to 20 judicial as well as expert members, because as it is going to be a tribunal giving judicial judgments, of course, most persons should be of judicial background, right? Guided by the principles of natural justice, not bound by the code of civil procedure. Natural justice basically means the justice should be beyond the laws, right? Powers, power of civil court to make suo motu cognizance any matter. Let's say any river is getting polluted, it can take matter itself without the matter of appeal to it, or any petition being filed without being filed, it can take such matters also, right? Then power to grant relief in the form of compensation and damages to the affected person. This is the kind of relief judgment it can give. Mandate a specialized judicial body equipped with expertise solely to adjudicate environmental cases in the country. Again, only environmental cases can be heard by National Green Tribunal. What kind of green environmental cases? Biodiversity Act, Public Liability Insurance Act, Environment Protection Act of 86, Air Prevention and Control Pollution Act of 1981, Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1974, Water Prevention and Control Pollution of Act of CES Act of 1977, Forest Conservation Act of 1980. So these are the kind of laws which National Green Tribunal can take up into consideration, right? Again, disposal of application. That is a time limit which has been set up, because environmental matters are the matters where again judgment is required in a time based manner. एक रिवर पोल्यूट हो रही है, आप उसके पास एनजीटी के पास केस लेके गए, एनजीटी जजमेंट दे रही है 10 साल के बाद, रिवर खत्म हो गए, सूख के खत्म हो गई है, पोल्यूट होकर खराब हो गई है, environment खराब हो चुका है. So there has to be a timely manner of giving judgment. So time limit which has been set up is of 6 months, right? Then appeal. Of course, that is a major drawback of this particular body, that again its orders are binding but not final. That is, it can review its judgment, or an appeal could be made in Supreme Court within 90 days. Right? Next, benches. NGT has presence in 5 zones: North zones, principal bench, headquartered in Delhi, and again we have seen Central, East, South, and West, the cities what we have discussed. Right? Next, Committee for Air Quality Management, with the kind of quality of air which is there in Delhi since maybe last decade itself. There was a importance of creation of any body, so that again the whole air quality in Delhi can be maintained and can be regulated. There has to be some body, specific body, which has to be constituted for that particular problem purpose, right? So for that management, Commission for Air Quality Management in National Capital and adjoining areas. So it is a statutory body, of course, established under the Commission of Air Quality Management of National Capital Region and Adjoining Areas Act, right? It replaced the Environmental Pollution Prevention and Control Authority. The mandate, of course, what it can do is it can manage air quality in the Delhi and adjoining areas, including Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, and Rajasthan. That is the adjoining areas of Delhi. It aims to achieve better coordination, research, and identification, resolution of problems surrounding the air quality index. Key functions, again, statutory directions for environmental pollution to state government, impose penalties for non-compliance. Of course, there is air quality grade index, and of course, this is a prime mandate which it can do, right? Then, Archaeological Survey of India, must be seen in art and culture. The Archaeological Survey of India intends to delist 18 centrally protected monuments out of 24 untraceable monuments. That is why this body was in use. Of course, it was Genesis, founded in 1861, not way beyond in 1861, by Alexander Cunningham, also known as the father of Indian archaeology. Very important piece of information, could be asked as a question of history in the examination, right? ASI is a body, statutory body, but again the founding member, it was founded in the year 1861 by Alexander Cunningham, also known as the father of Indian archaeology. Again, coming under which ministry? Ministry of Culture. Again, what is the task? It is a premium organization for archaeological researches, protection and maintenance of ancient monuments and cultural heritage. Mandate, again, basically regulating all archaeological activities in the country as per provisions of Ancient Monuments, Archaeological Sites and Remains Act, Antiques and Art Treasures Act, in charge of protection or maintenance of centrally protected monuments, sites of national importance, including World Heritage Site, right? That is how it is. So next body we are going to start. Okay, the next body is National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission. So of course, all the bodies which we are discussing from now onwards will be very short because nothing broad topics, very small bodies. But again, yet as they were in use, they could become a question in examinations. So please very quickly go through the factual information which are mentioned in those such kind of bodies, right? So National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission, of course, any matters related to disputes related to consumers, right? So National Consumer Dispute Resolution Commission, of course, it is going to be again, as it is a dispute resolution mechanism, so of course it is going to be a quasi-judicial body. It was set up under the which statutory act, again as it is statutory body, Consumer Protection Act of 1986, headed by a retired judge of Supreme Court or a sitting or retired Chief Justice of a High Court. That is headed by that body. An appeal against the order of NCDRC lies with Supreme Court. Any matter of this national, any matter which has been given judgment by the NCRDC can be appealed in the Supreme Court only. Functions, what are they doing? They are entertaining complaints valued more than 2 crores, not nothing beyond this. Less than this, appellate and revisional jurisdiction from the orders of state commissioners or the district area. Of course, by the way of appeal, they are rating at the National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission, right? That is the idea. Then Investors Education and Protection Fund Authority. So of course, this was created under the aegis of Ministry of Corporate Affairs under the Establishment of Companies Act of 2013. Again, the idea is investor education. The broad idea is responsible for managing investor education and protection funds, because there have been a lot of instances in the country where again people have been cheated, people are less informed and they are taking decisions related to investment which is leading to loss of a lot of money. So that is why this fund has been created. It is focusing on safeguarding investor interest by facilitating the refund of shares, unclaimed dividends and mature deposit debentures. That is the idea, right? So that is how it is. Next, ICAR, very important. 100 years of establishment has been completing. Again, 100 years, so of course that institute is very important for this examination. So ICAR, this body is of course coordinating, guiding, managing research and education in agriculture, including horticulture, fisheries, animal sciences in the entire country. So though it is agriculture, but it is also looking into the matter of horticulture, fisheries and animal science. That makes it, that is the area of question which could be asked here, right? Then, of course, the genesis is again through Imperial Council of Agriculture Researcher Act of 1929, right? And it was again created on the commission, recommended by the committee report of Royal Commission on Agriculture of 1928 before India got independent. And status, it is an autonomous organization under Department of Agricultural Research and Education, and headquarters is in New Delhi. Basic information, because all such bodies are very small bodies. We're going to very quickly go through it. Central Silk Board, again, a statutory body, headquarters is in Bangalore, right? There are many boards which has been constituted. What is the mandate? Read that. Headquarter and which ministry it is coming from, right? So Ministry of Textiles, again, Central Silk Board, right? And what is the mandate? Advise government on all matters concerning sericulture and silk industry and standardization of various production process related to silk matters, right? That is the idea. Basic functions, authority, you read it by yourself. Next, Spices Board of India. Again, many times in economics question, you must have seen that Spices Board is one of the options in examination, right? What is their function? What is their mandate? Again, the headquarters is in Kochi in Kerala. That could be a question. Why I'm telling you? Because there has been questions like this in examination, right? So these kind of board, the headquarter is also asked. Right, very important, right? Genesis, again, under the Act of Spices Board Act of 1986. Coming under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Again, what is the role? Role is, of course, autonomous body responsible for export promotion. Spices Board for export promotion of 52 scheduled spices and development of cardamom, right? Specifically for 52 spices export and targeting for cardamom, right? Again, the Codex Committee, India has and chairs Codex Committee on Spices and Culinary Herbs, which was set up under the Codex Eliminatis Committee. SEBI, SBI serves as its secretariat. That is a basic information, right? Next, Tobacco Board, again, headquarters in Guntur, Andhra Pradesh. Ministry of Department of Commerce, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, again established in 1976 by an Act of Parliament, that is Tobacco Board Act of 1975. क्या काम करती है? Promote development of tobacco industries, including regulation of production, because again, as it is again a kind of a good which is harmful for its consumption. So of course, regulation is very important. Distribution and export of FCV tobaccos, right? Next, Central Electricity Authority, again, Union Ministry of Power launches National Electricity Plan Transmission developed by Central Electricity Authority, that makes this body which has been used. Again, headquarter New Delhi, which act? Electricity Supply Act of 1948, which has been repealed, and again the new act, which is Electricity Act of 2003, which is the genesis of this particular body. What is that? Member consists of 14 members, including chairperson, of whom more than 8 members will be full-time members appointed by the central government. What is the task? Advise central government on national security policy, electricity policy, specify technical standards for construction of electricity plants, lines and regulations. Basic information, nothing much to be discussed here. Now comes a very important body, it is Central Bureau of Investigation. So now we are discussing non-statutory bodies. So CBI is in fact neither a constitutional body nor a statutory body. It is a non-statutory body, right? So recently there was a case which was there in Supreme Court again, where again West Bengal government has claimed that again, of course, for any matters for CBI to investigate is, let's say, for example, I'll tell you the case itself. There was a rape of a doctor in West Bengal in Kolkata in a medical college. So CBI went there for investigation. The West Bengal government has claimed that again, for of course CBI to investigate any matters in the state, it has to take consent of that particular state. So West Bengal is telling that we have not given consent to CBI to investigate in any matters to the state. By which authority CBI has come to West Bengal and investigate this particular matter? That is why this matter went in the court, and CBI, again the court has, the Supreme Court has given a judgment on that as well. That is why it was in news. So again, just like CVC, it was also created on the recommendation of Santhanam Committee on Prevention of Corruption Act of 1962 and 64, right? It is coming under the Ministry of Personal, Pension and Public Grievances. Very important, not under Ministry of, again, this is very important ministry. Again, it is a non-statutory, non-constitutional body, and it is governed by, again, the genesis of this act is not through Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, which might confuse you that it is a statutory body. It is governed by the principles of Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, but it is neither a statutory body nor a non-constitutional body, right? Then it is a premier investigating police agency in India which coordinate investigation on behalf of Interpol member countries. Very basic information. What is the motto? Very important. Please remember, industry, impartiality and integrity. That is the motto. Vision, of course, to combat corruption in public life, curbing economic and violent crimes through meticulous investigation and prosecution to fight cyber and high technological crimes, right? So again, composition, please read. Director, then there are chief, the panel of selection committee consists of Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, Chief Justice of India. Basic information, please read by yourself. Types of cases: anti-corruption, economic offences, special crimes and suo motu cases. This is very important, that what kind of cases can CBI take for investigation, right? So now, consent, again very important, that is why it was in news. Generally, CBI is not required to seek fresh permission every time it enters a state to connection. For example, there are a lot of cases which can be investigated by CBI in West Bengal. So of course, every time it is going to enter and investigate in the case of West Bengal, it is not going to take permission of state. So one time consent is required generally, right? So that is what it is. And Section 6 of the DSPE Act empowers state government to give or deny consent to a CBI officer. West Bengal government has denied the consent. Irrespective of that, CBI has gone and investigate a case in West Bengal. That is why this was in news, right? What is specific? CBI would have to apply state government in every case if there is a specific case every time or in specific matters, right? Then Niti Aayog, again, very, very important. You must have read in the Planning Commission has been scrapped off. And again, there has been the idea of Niti Aayog, which has come into picture, which is again promoting the idea of cooperative and competitive federalism in India. So basic information, again, read it. You have read multiple number of times. Composition, what exactly is the composition? And what is the mandate? Please read that. And again, very important, this thing I like to point it out. What are the important reports and indices which are being released by Niti Aayog? That could be a question in examination. Initiatives: Atal Innovation Mission, National Data and Analytics Platform, Aspirational District Program, Women Entrepreneurship Platform. So these are the initiatives which are recently been taken by Niti Aayog. Reports: Safe Accommodation Report, Enhancing Domestic Coking Coal Availability, Pathways for Edible Oil Growth, Saath E report that has been given by it. Indices: SDG Index of India, Composite Water Management Index, State Health Index and India Innovation Index. So these are the indices which are being released by Niti Aayog, right? Next, India Post Payment Banks. Of course, the post office is going to create its own bank, that is the Indian Post Office Banks. That is a broad idea, and it is celebrating its 7th foundation day. That is why it is being in news. It was established in the year 2018, again Department of Post, Ministry of Communication with 100% equity by Government of India. And what is the idea? To provide every household in India access to efficient banking services, and that is the idea. What kind of services? Current account, saving account, DBT transfers, bill, utility payments, access to third-party products such as loans, insurance. That is the basic idea of this Indian Post Payments Bank. Next, Law Commission. Recently, the 23rd Law Commission has been created, of course, by the ideas of what better in terms of judiciary we can do for the country, how laws can be better made, right? That is the idea of Law Commission, and it is being set up by the government, right? So the 23rd Law Commission has been set up from 24 to 27 for approximately for 3 years, 24 to 27. Mandate: to review and recommend legal reforms to enhance, of course, the Indian legal system. Composition: full-time chairman, 4 members, and ex officio part-time member. So that is the idea. What is the history? Please read that. Again, by the Ministry of Law and Justice. Next, Pay commission, of course, you must have read about 7th pay commission, 8th pay commission. 7th pay commission was being set up to revise the salaries of central government employees. And again, similarly, 8th pay commission has been set up to revise and determine the salary structure, allowances, other benefits of the government employees, right? That is how it is. Again, on the recommendation of Justice Ashok Kumar Mathur, this was the chairman of 7th pay commission. Next, National Security Council Secretariat, basic. National Security Council, basically again on the basis of KC Pant recommendation to look in the matters of Security Council, right? So that is a mandate and structure, very basic, please read it by yourself. Next, ISRO, very important. It is not coming under any ministry of the government. It is coming under Department of Space, which is directly under the Prime Minister office, right? That is how it is important. So again, mandate a National Space Agency, you must be knowing that. So what, again, the Prime Minister, it has Space Commission, and again, it is directly coming under the Department of Space, is directly coming under Prime Minister's office. Again, same goes for Department of Atomic Energy also, right? So it has different bodies. ISRO is one of them. There are different autonomous bodies with respect to space, are in space, and CSPCs. Please read that. Next, Commission for Railway Safety, again, of course, by the name itself, a commission which has been set up for railway safety with the kind of railway accidents happening in the country. There has been a setup of this particular commission, which was created in the year 1961 under Ministry of Civil Aviation. Deals with the matters related to safety of railways, rail travel and operations, and functions of inspection, investigation, advisory under the Railway Act of 1989, and investigate serious train accidents. Of course, any train accident which is happening in the country investigated by Commission for Railways. Next, National Sample Survey, you must have read that in any of the CPI index or any kind of matters of factual kind of indices which are in terms of economics. So NSSO, of course, National Sample Survey Office, it was established in the year 1950 by NSSO as a part of NSO, right? And it consists of Central Statistical Office and NSSO. Purpose to conduct large-scale sample surveys of diverse fields on all India basis to, of course, to create survey and collect data. Annual survey samples, smaller sample studies on specific topics, quintillion surveys, large-scale surveys. So major surveys क्या-क्या किया है इन्होंने? Household consumption expenditure, periodic labor force survey, annual survey of industries, and situational assessment survey of agricultural households. ऐसे ही आपको options मिल जाएंगे आपके question paper में, and they will ask you it has been done by which body? So again the answer is NSSO. So of course please read this, very important, what kind of surveys are being conducted by NSSO, right? Then Central Groundwater Board, very basic, please read that, what exactly, how it has been created, what is the mandate, what kind of reports and indices which has been given by it. Dynamic Groundwater Resource of India, Groundwater Yearbook, Aquifer Mapping Report, basic reports which are being given by groundwater. Next, National Federation of State Cooperative Banks, of course, National Federation of State Cooperative Banks to regulate and mandate the facilitate the operations of state and central cooperative banks in India, right? That is the basic idea of this particular creation, very factual piece of information, please read it. Next, Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, of course, the idea is to, it is a premier intelligence and enforcement agency of anti-smuggling matters, very important. What is the mandate? Only investigating anti-smuggling matters into consideration. Working under Central Board of Direct Taxes under Ministry of Finance, again an important piece of information which was there in one of the questions, I think, in economic survey test of yours as well, right? Objective to detect and curb smuggling of contraband, including drug trafficking, illicit international trade of wildlife and environmental sensitive items. All three of these, not only smuggling related to drugs as well as international trade in wildlife and environmental sensitive items. Combating commercial frauds related to international trade and evasion of customs duty as well. So again, three type of things: drugs, environment, and custom duty evasion. So these are three mandate under Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, coming under which ministry? Ministry of Finance, working under Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, very important. National Turmeric Board, again just like National Silk Board, Tobacco Board, this is National Turmeric Board, headquarter Telangana, right, because it is a major turmeric producing state in the origin of the country. Coming under Ministry of Commerce and Industry, because all such products are coming under the trade and commerce, of course. ministry, and again it has representatives of minister, because again it is being used in different Ministry of Ayush as well. So it has representations from Ministry of Ayush, Department of Pharmaceuticals, Department of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, right? And TAI is an executive body, it is not a statutory body. Sahitya Academy Awards are being given, and that is why Sahitya Academy as a body is in news, right? So it is formed in the year 1954 and registered under Societies Registration Act of 1860. It is coming under Ministry of Culture, and its role is to undertake literary activities in 24 languages. Of that, 22 are the 22 scheduled languages of Indian Constitution, and 2 languages, English and Rajasthani. Its major awards are Sahitya Academy Awards and Bharat Samman, Bhasha Samman. So these are the 2 important awards which are being given by Sahitya Academy. UPSC has been asking questions on awards. So again, very important in terms of art and culture question in examination. Next, IMD, you must be knowing, Indian Meteorology Department, what is the task, what is the mandate which has been created. Self-reading, please read that. Next, National Stock Exchange, again you must have read in economics. It was established in the year 1982 as with the creation of SEBI. And stock exchange is a centralized marketplace where again securities such as national stock bonds are sold. India's largest stock exchange board is in terms of market cap. In fact, it has crossed $5 trillion market cap last year in the year 2024. That is why it is very important for this year as well, right? And Nifty 50 is of course all major 50 countries who are listed in national stock exchange, which is pioneering technology, first exchange in India to implement electronic screen-based trading, right? And various indices, India's first electric vehicle EV index, which has been listed over here, right, to track performance of companies, which is a part of EV ecosystem, right? So that's how we end the topic of national organizations which were there in news. Again, towards the last part, where again we moved a little bit fast. Why? Because these topics were completely factual piece of information. But again, remember that all information which we are going to read, it is just given in a very systematic manner, right? So read them. I have given you enough examples that how UPSC has asked questions based on these information. Any information could directly, of course, there is a possibility that it could be a direct question in examination, but also there is something which you can interpret informations which are there in this piece of document, which could become one of the option in the question paper, one of a possible way through which you can eliminate an option in the question paper. That is where you can use these kind of documents, and these are the few topics as I discussed in the beginning of the class as well. Organizations, reports, indices, economic survey, budget in national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, again IUCN, endangered, all such animals, rivers, important places in news. These are the few specific areas from which questions are asked, 7-8 questions from these 7-8 topics every year, right? So that is how you're going to strategize. And lastly, all the very best for this year prelims examination. I hope all of you who have studied well in a disciplined manner could sail through the examination. Don't get overwhelmed at this particular phase before the examination. Trust yourself, believe in yourself. Don't do anything new in the whole preparation. Just revise, write tests, analyze previous year question papers. That's how you're going to crack the examination. So all the very best from my side. All the very best wishes to all of you who are going to write examination of prelims this year. Thank you so much.